The Knights of the Zodiac shine in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Mission Failure. Without the Hulk's outburst and the bad fight with Iron Man in the city, Tony also lost a classic act of showing off his wealth. He instantly bought a building under construction and then demolished it in 5 seconds. But despite this, there are still 3 more confused people in the Avengers. Captain, Thor, and Black Widow were attacked by Wanda in the broken ship and instantly fell into a strange dream. Captain and Black Widow's dreams were in the past, and they saw the regrets and fears of their life experiences. And Thor saw the future. In the magnificent but dimly lit hall, a group of Asgard's monsters twisted their waists like snakes and posed in various strange and easy-to-enter postures. Some people even began to be shameless. Thor, who walked in the hall with a hammer, was the alien of the whole Asgard. "Look who this is." Heimdall, who had cataracts, rushed over like a drunkard and started talking nonsense to Thor. "Son of Odin, can't you see that we are all dead? It was you who brought destruction. It was you who brought destruction to Asgard." "No, I just want to protect Asgard. I can save you," Thor shouted unwillingly. But Heimdall shouted angrily, "You are a destroyer. Wherever your power is directed, there will be destruction." As Heimdall said this, the power of lightning suddenly lit up on Thor's body. The lightning blast illuminated the entire hall abnormally brightly. In the flash, Thor saw several gem-like things in the void, a pair of eyes in the dark, and 2 people wearing black cloaks in the corner of the hall. The lightning lifted the hem of their cloaks, slightly revealing the clothes inside. One was wearing a green tights, and the other was wearing armor shining with silver light. The dream stopped here. Thor forced himself to stand up from the ground and saw the Captain and the Black Widow, who were in a similar situation as himself. Both of them were full of confusion in their eyes. "Hey, friends, has anyone seen the Hulk?" Tony's somewhat exasperated voice came out of the headset. He had just received a message from Ultron. This bastard actually wanted to make the Hulk angry here. If it is not handled properly, it will be a huge crisis of trust for the Avengers. "Hulk," Banner shrugged beside Lazai. "I'm afraid you won't be able to see your Hulk friend for the time being." "Banner, are you okay?" Tony breathed a sigh of relief, but also felt a little strange. Ultron had just said it so confidently, and he believed it. But thinking carefully, with that stinky boy Lazai there, how could the brother and sister get any benefits? He actually believed it. Wasn't he as stupid as Ultron? After a while, everyone returned to the fighter plane, and their faces were not very good. Although they guessed Ultron's intention correctly, they failed to snatch the vibranium that Ultron wanted. This time, the strike mission against Ultron across half the Earth ended in complete failure. "Does anyone need psychological counseling?" At this time, Lazai was drinking coffee and teasing everyone. "I think you guys don't seem to be in a good mood. You may not understand it. I also have some experience in mental magic. Do you want me to help you with counseling? It's just like the simple counseling of a tutor," Lazai said and winked at Black Widow. However, Black Widow didn't react to this. Lazai was a little disappointed. "Could it be that my appearance couldn't be defeated?" Thor looked at Lazai thoughtfully, and the familiar silver flashed in his mind. His blue eyes flickered, and I don't know what he was thinking. Soon, everyone returned to the ship, and the target was naturally the Stark building in New York, which is now the Avengers headquarters. Since they didn't experience the Hulk's rampage, the Avengers didn't need crisis public relations, and naturally didn't need to hide in the so-called safe house, Hawkeye's house, which is not in the record. Since it is not in the record, then don't show up. Only those who don't show up are truly safe. It was just a pity for the braised egg who was nestling in Hawkeye's house and breaking corn like an old farmer. If he wanted to continue to be the guide for the Avengers, he might have to go to New York. Lazai did not go with them, but went to Seoul first under the pretext of returning to China. Ultron robbed the vibranium to build a real body for himself, a new mechanical life produced by the coexistence and combination of vibranium atoms and cell tissues. Yes, using the most powerful metal on Earth, with the help of Zhao Heilun's regeneration cradle. A real metal life form was successfully created, and with the blessing of the Mind Stone, Ultron can upload his consciousness to this new metal life form. At that time, he will be a real living person. It takes time to make a body, and it also takes time to upload one's own consciousness. According to the original plot, Wanda will use magic to sense Ultron's intention to destroy mankind when the body is completed and the consciousness is half uploaded, and wake up in time, thus preventing the information from being uploaded. Then the Avengers arrived in time, and after a thrilling urban car chase and fighting drama, they successfully snatched the body prepared by Ultron for themselves, and with Tony's long plan and Thor's divine assistance, they turned him into the new superhero of the Avengers, Vision. However, the development of things is different from the original. Hulk did not go berserk, and Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch encountered Lazai again. No one dared to guarantee whether the plot would develop according to the original timeline. Lazai was worried that if Ultron really completed the upload of consciousness before Wanda turned against him and the Avengers arrived, who could defeat him at that time? Ultron, who has a powerful body made of vibranium and the blessing of the Mind Stone, and can escape from the network at any time, is helpless even if Lazai faces him. After all, the Saints are mythical creatures, and they lack the necessary means to kill the network monsters with future black technology. Even if the mental attack method such as the illusion demon King Fist acts on the brain first and then stimulates the mind, it is very likely to be immune to data flow. So Lazai prepared to go to Seoul in advance to do surveillance. She could not allow such a situation that was beyond her control to happen. As a top biologist who had worked with the Avengers, Jae-Lun had a transcendent status in South Korea. She was well known, and the location of the Woojin Genetics Research Laboratory she presided over was also easy to find. It was late at night, and Jae-Lun was directing his assistants to move the equipment in the laboratory when an uninvited guest suddenly visited. Chapter 277 Halftime. Jae-Lun felt like she had a dream. In the dream, she was not the inventor of biological regeneration technology, the pride of the Great Goryeo Kingdom, or the strongest scientist in the universe. She was just a little woman who fell in love inadvertently. Her ideal husband was a peerless hero. One day, he wore a golden armor and stepped on colorful clouds. He walked into her heart inadvertently and captured her completely. From then on, they lived a happy life from sunrise to sunset. A happy life is always nourishing. When Jae-Lun woke up from this wonderful dream, she found that the chair had been wet without knowing when. Jae-Lun looked around and quickly went to the cloakroom to change a set of clothes while no one was around. Then she returned to her laboratory again, as elegant as orchid, as if nothing had happened. Lazai, who witnessed all this somewhere outside the laboratory building, sat lazily, with a helpless look on her face. From Jae-Lun's blushing expression just now, he could guess what happened with his butt. He didn't expect that Dr. Zhao, who looked handsome and dignified, would actually have a spring dream like a young girl. This is really, whose cat is not in heat. After Lazai left Africa, he flew directly to South Korea with his small universe. He did not show up to meet Jae-Lun rashly, but monitored from a distance outside. At this time, a whole day had passed. Lazai, who witnessed a good show, actually felt very sorry. It was all because of the Saint Seiya's developed five senses and superb vision. He really didn't want to see so many details, but in order to guard against Ultron, Lazai had to do this. As a result, he saw Dr. Zhao's big secret and could only say sorry. All this is for world peace and the safety of all mankind. That's it. It was not until night fell that Ultron and his team arrived late, a full day later than Lazai. But think about it. Ultron had to bring the vibranium he robbed in Africa back to Scovia in Europe, and then take his men from Scovia to South Korea. It would take longer to go around. Lazai didn't pay attention to the details of what Ultron talked about with Jae-Lun. Anyway, he knew the general thread, and the differences in the remaining details were not a big deal. With the help of the Mind Scepter, Ultron and Jae-Lun communicated smoothly, and soon, the regeneration cradle began to build a new body for Ultron using vibranium and cell tissue technology. Building a body requires a process, which takes about a week. It was not until he discovered this that Lazai realized how stupid he was. When watching a movie, there was only a camera switch, and the body in the regeneration cradle was built. so he thought this thing was built very quickly, so he rushed all the way back from Africa. In the end, he found that he had gained nothing from this trip except watching a woman sleeping. The urban car chase drama in Seoul will take another week to be staged. After figuring this out, Liziah decided to really go back to China. It was already at the doorstep of her home, and it would be a bit unreasonable not to go back. But she couldn't just leave Seoul alone. If something unexpected happened, it would be too late to regret. Liziah, who was too busy to do anything, suddenly thought of someone. He seemed to have an assistant who was almost forgotten. It should be okay for her to come here to look after him. When Wang Bingbing saw Liziah again, it felt like a world had passed. She almost thought that she had finished filming. "Aida, don't look at me so resentfully. Really, after this trip, you can go back to your hometown to get married. I don't have many activities in the United States that need your help. In the future, you won't be able to help with many things." Looking at Wang Bingbing, whom she hadn't seen for a long time, Liziah was once again filled with emotion. But what he said was not wrong. When the children in Liuyuan grow up, her combat power as an ordinary person will really fall behind, and she will become the one who needs to be taken care of on the battlefield. Wang Bingbing rolled her eyes at Liziah in displeasure. "Are you done?" "Yeah, almost done." Liziah nodded. The two of them were actually more like colleagues, not as familiar as others thought. The cousin thing was just a joke. "Then hurry up and leave." "I'm enough here." Wang Bingbing, who was looked down upon, was very unconvinced. After she finished speaking, she began to take things out of her bag, including binoculars, night vision goggles, eavesdropping devices, and a bunch of other spy supplies. Seeing this, Liziah did not delay anymore. Before leaving, he reminded her again, "Remember that your mission is to monitor the development of the tents. Don't take any action. Once you find that the things in the regeneration cradle are completed or any other accidents occur, notify me immediately." After the explanation, Liziah did not delay and got up and flew towards Liuyuan. It has only been 2 or 3 days since the Battle of Wu Lao Peak, and the atmosphere in Liuyuan still retains the bleakness of the war. All the students are trying their best to force themselves to grow, but cultivation is not a one-day thing. Even Lin Lai and others need some time to cultivate the black clothes from the back pattern. Under the waterfall of Wu Lao Peak, several people who have condensed the back pattern have begun to enter the waterfall with the fastest water flow to practice, letting the hundreds of meters high waterfall water hit their bodies. This is not only a physical training but also a tempering of will. They don't want to have the experience of 500 students being defeated by 100 ice giants again. Moreover, after knowing that there is a world like Jotunheim with a harsh environment and full of ice giants and prehistoric monsters, they are full of yearning for it. "One day, we will break into the enemy's lair, instead of staying here passively and waiting for their attack forever." Seeing the vigorous appearance of everyone, Liziah was relieved, and at the same time began to order Barragan and others to continue the attack on Liuyuan, and not let these children live too comfortably. Moreover, this time, Barragan can let go of his hands and feet appropriately. They can trample on the children in Liuyuan as they please, as long as they don't kill them, without alarming the students. Liziah took a quick look at Liuyuan and went directly to the SHIELD. Zheng Xian happened to be there, so the two of them took a casual tour inside the base. With the support of high-tech, the technological level of the SHIELD has far surpassed that of SHIELD, and even the air base that was almost completed, the Circle headquarters, was torn down and rebuilt. The energy defense system and attack technology from Xander were used to turn the Circle headquarters into a real air weapon that can attack or defend. Chapter 278 Mobile Suit. The base of the Shinmao Bureau is very large. The Research and Development Center in the above-ground part is as large as more than a dozen football fields, and the underground building area is more than 10 times that of the above-ground part. There are multiple circular air fortresses and experimental space fortresses under construction in the underground base. The tentacles of the Shinmao Bureau are about to go beyond the Earth and deploy military forces outside the Earth to truly defend against the enemy. Since ancient times, the shield is in the west and the spear is in the east. This saying is about to be truly known to the world. and the Shinmao Bureau is about to truly take on the task of being the spear that pierces the enemy. The space fortress is still in the experimental stage, but it is progressing very quickly. After a while, after the success of the Chang Moon landing plan, we plan to establish a base and supply point on the moon, and truly turn the moon into a bridgehead for humans to fly into space. Zheng Xian introduced confidently. Being able to see the rapid development of this country is the greatest honor for every descendant of the Yellow Emperor. Zia frowned. Isn't it too big a step? Building a base and supply point is a big project. Can we send so many infrastructure workers up there? Zheng Xian suddenly smiled mysteriously. It's the space age. If infrastructure construction still needs people to go up there to operate, it's too shabby. Taking a big step forward, Zheng Xian quickly brought Zia to a huge hatch. He went forward and operated a lot of fingerprints, pupils, irises, and voice control. Finally, he opened 5 doors and brought Zia into this mysterious laboratory. As soon as he entered this huge laboratory, Zia was stunned. Am I traveling through time? Looking at the huge object in front of him that was more than 10 meters high, Zia felt like he was traveling through time again. Is this Ziku? At that moment, Zia thought he was blind. He could never have imagined that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he would actually see a living mobile suit Gundam. Isn't this super player? Just as Zia was talking, the tall single-eye mobile suit that looked like Ziku turned its head and looked over. Then, unexpectedly, it stood at attention and saluted. A slightly distorted but powerful voice came from the loudspeaker. Hello, Chief. Zheng Xian returned the salute and smiled. Thank you for your hard work. You continue testing. I'm just here to take a look. Zia looked around and found that this laboratory was much larger than she had imagined. The ceiling was at least 50 meters high, which could be used to test the jumping and moving capabilities of the mobile suits. The area of the laboratory was also huge. 7 or 8 mobile suits were being tested at the same time, but it didn't seem crowded at all. In the warehouse next to the wall, there were more mobile suits parked. Since you brought back Ivan Vanko's research data, our scientists have developed and improved the exoskeleton armor. You have also seen the previous remote control version. Zia remembered what Zheng Xian said. The recovery of the Chitauri spaceship garbage from the outer space battlefield was done by the remote mobile armored unit. However, unlike Ivan Vanko, who used a set of programs to control all the machines at that time, Zheng Xian had a special remote control unit under his command, and each armor had a dedicated person to control it. This greatly improved the flexibility of the armor, allowing it to better perform some delicate work and avoid special emergencies. Zia had seen the commander of that unit before. He was a square-faced fat man with a surname of Li, codenamed Sky, and was good at one-wave flow. In that incident, we realized that mobile armor has a unique advantage in space exploration. It can carry out more and more dangerous space exploration and large-scale space construction work while absolutely ensuring the safety of astronauts. Zheng Xian pointed to the enlarged mechanical armor in the distance. Their joints were flexible, and they could skillfully perform various actions under the control of the driver. So, we made some extensions based on the mechanical armor and enlarged them. In this way, not only is the power stronger, but the working time and intensity have also been greatly improved. Besides, if all these guys are equipped with weapons, don't you think they will become a powerful force that makes the enemy despair? Zia nodded involuntarily. What you said suddenly made me want to go up and experience it. Okay, driving a Gundam is the romance of men. A real man should ride a Gundam, right? Grabbing Zheng Xian's hand, Zia said very seriously. Can you customize a model for me? I want strike freedom, and I can buy it with money. Although Zheng Xian didn't know what strike freedom was, he agreed with a smile. No problem, no matter the appearance or performance requirements, you can tell them. I will let them try their best to meet your requirements. As a national hero, as long as this space can do it, you can make any requirements. As long as we can do it, we will never refuse. Zheng Xian's words represent the attitude of the top leaders. Regarding Zia's contribution to the country, the top leaders have seen it. The instruction Zheng Xian received was that as long as Zia's requirements did not conflict with the national interests and did not violate the law and morality, then they would do everything they could to meet him. This also proves from another aspect how important these technologies brought back by Lazai are to the country. However, although Zheng Xian said so, Lazai would not really take chicken feathers as a command and really let the entire base busy this and that to meet his requirements. I don't need that much, just give me a Gundam. Really, Lazai was so excited that he almost went crazy. Damn Bandays 1 to 144 and 1 to 100. Is it a big deal to sell them so expensive? I don't want them. Do you have a real Gundam that can drive, fire cannons and shoot guns? Lazai didn't care about taking a break. He found an office and started to draw the Gundam design. There was no Gundam animation series in this world, so he couldn't copy it directly. He could only draw and design it bit by bit. Because the time was too long ago, Lazai naturally couldn't draw the Strike Freedom exactly. Even if he looked at the photo before crossing, he might not be able to draw it completely with his abstract painting style. So he just drew the general appearance and functions, and specially marked the color scheme. He must follow the original red, black, blue, white and gold. Zheng Xian, who was standing by, wanted to remind Lazai that the more eye-catching the color, the easier it would be to become the first target of the enemy's concentrated fire on the battlefield. However, considering the color Lazai requested, it was much more low-key compared to that flashy Iron Man, so he didn't ask for anything in the end. Since he said he would meet all his requirements, he would just do it and treat it as making a toy for him. Chapter 279, Another Wave. For 6 days, Lazai was immersed in the design and development of Strike Freedom, eating and living with the engineers in the laboratory. During the process, Lazai, who was wearing a white coat, even had the illusion that he was a high-tech technical talent. During these 6 days, Lazai did provide a lot of problems to the engineers and scientists in the laboratory, but he did not solve them. All kinds of extremely amateur, whimsical and self-evident problems made everyone exhausted. In the end, the entire laboratory jointly reported to Zheng Xian and proposed that Lazai serve as the chief engineer of the Strike Freedom Project Development Group, responsible for the macro scheduling and control of the entire project, as well as the follow-up testing after the successful development of the project. The implication is that you should not add to the details of the current steps. Lazai, who was deprived of the opportunity to work on the front line, actually felt sorry for everyone. These people probably didn't know that he was a god-level repairman who could even repair the holy clothes. Everyone didn't know what this proposal made them miss. Coming out of the lab with little interest, Zheng Xian was just about to arrange for Lazai to go to other places for a visit and guidance, when a phone call came in, disrupting their schedule. The caller ID was Iron Man. "Hey, big hero, how come you have time to call me?" Lazai, "This is Steve." The captain's serious voice sounded on the other side, and the captain's tightly furrowed brows appeared in front of Lazai's eyes with just one sentence: "We are in big trouble." Lazai was stunned for a moment, and then she remembered that the Ultron issue had not been resolved. She had been having too much fun these days, and there had been no news from Wang Bingbing, so Lazai almost forgot about Ultron. "Captain, I'm listening, you talk." From the captain's orderly words, Lazai quickly understood something. In this week, although the Maximoff brothers and sisters were making trouble all over the world and the Avengers were exhausted from dealing with it, they were not without gains. The Avengers had met with Fury, and learned from Fury that they had an unknown ally who was blocking Ultron from obtaining the nuclear missile code. During the discussion, it seemed that Ultron's intention was seen, and it was judged that he wanted to obtain a body that was stronger and more evolved than humans. The only one who could help him accomplish this was Dr. Jae-lun, who was in South Korea. "We are on our way to South Korea, but we don't know if we can make it in time. Are you still in China? If you are, I hope you can rush over there. We must stop Ultron." Asking Lazai for help was also a last resort. Thor had left first because of the previous hallucination and didn't know where he went. Tony needed to go to the Oslo data center to find out who was helping to intercept Ultron. Although this person might not be a friend, he must be Ultron's enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and this must be used. As for the others, Banner is still the double-edged sword, hurting others and himself, and should not be used lightly unless it is absolutely necessary. The remaining combat power is only Captain America, Black Widow and Hawkeye. Although Lazai is not an Avenger, he is a loyal ally of the Avengers, and in the fight against Ultron, everyone has long been in a cooperative relationship. Understood. Lazai didn't say anything more. After saying goodbye to Zhang Xian, he immediately set off for South Korea. It was a pity that the Strong Self had not been completed yet, otherwise it would be very cool to drive the Gundam there. On the way, Lazai contacted Wang Bingbing and learned from her that the body of Ultron had not been built yet, and had not even really started yet. It seems that there was a problem with their preparations. The entire laboratory has now come to a standstill. Not only was Wang Bingbing a little puzzled, but even Lazai, who had arrived, was a little confused when he saw the laboratory that had completely come to a standstill. Something went wrong with the preparations? What could go wrong? The materials were ready. The framework had been conceived by Ultron a long time ago, and Zhao Heilun's technology was also completely fine, so what could go wrong? After a little thought, Lazai decided that he couldn't wait for the captain to come. The situation on the scene was different from the movie. He didn't believe that Ultron would really stop the work of making the body, and he couldn't wait for the captain to arrive. Thinking about it, Lazai called Captain America. "Captain, I'm at the scene. Something is wrong. Go through your procedures ahead of time. I'll be temporarily assigned to the Avengers, and I'll launch a surprise attack in 5 seconds." Without much explanation, Captain America agreed to Lazai's request. After a little thought, fighting in a foreign country, the procedures should still be followed for the sake of face. 5 seconds later, Wang Bingbing evacuated the scene, while Lazai, wearing the holy clothes, turned into a silver light and rushed towards the laboratory building. Bang! A dozen meters away from the building, a red mental barrier appeared out of thin air, blocking Lazai's body. Behind the red light, Wanda's body slowly descended from the sky. "I knew you would come a long time ago. We've been waiting for you for a long time." Boom! A stream of light flashed past Lazai, and a huge force hit the shield on his arm, and a bowl of thick solid steel was smashed into a bent shape. Pietro appeared on the other side, tilting his head and shouting, "What? Didn't you see me coming? Where's your light wall? Is it too late?" Lazai was very surprised that the Maximov brothers and sisters would appear here to resist her. Shouldn't they have turned against Wanda because they saw Ultron's purpose of destroying mankind? Could it be that Ultron's body has not been built yet? Or something unexpected happened. Lazai moved her left arm, and a piercing pain came from her arm. Quicksilver's speed was too fast. Under the blessing of speed, the solid steel as thick as a bowl was bent. The force of that blow just now can be imagined. And because of Wanda's interference just now, Lazai only had time to raise the shield for defense. Although the shield offset most of the force, her arm was still injured. Although it was not broken, it still affected her strength. Wanda's body floated in the air and flew slowly forward. The dark red spiritual energy on her body was so rich that it seemed to be about to overflow. "Aren't you good at mental magic? Now that we have time, let's discuss it, okay?" Dark red mental energy spread from Wanda's body, slowly covering Lazai's body. The moment Lazai was touched by this mental energy, her body suddenly stiffened unconsciously. Although it was only a short moment, it was enough for Pietro. Whoosh! A blue stream of light flashed by, and Pietro held a new piece of steel in his hand. He swung his arm and smashed it hard towards Lazai's knee. Chapter 280 Breakthrough. The steel hit Lazai's knee hard. Pietro was confident that he could break the opponent's leg. In everyone's impression, Quicksilver seemed to be bad in all aspects except speed. Even in the official ability values, his strength and endurance were at the level of ordinary people. In other aspects, only his fighting skills were slightly better, but he only had fighting experience, not even proficient. Therefore, many people thought that Quicksilver was not a good hero and could only be a firefighter. However, don't forget the saying that the only way to defeat martial arts in the world is to be fast. Sometimes, just being fast is enough. When the speed is fast, flying flowers and picking leaves can hurt people. Before the opponent felt it, he had already withdrawn and hidden between heaven and earth. Ask yourself, Which woman can stop such an assassin? Pietro's speed is very fast. Lazai has reached a speed of 5 times the speed of sound, which is still far behind him. So even if Lazai was officially fighting with Kuai, he couldn't actually see him. He could only use his strong fighting awareness to predict his route and position in advance, and then conduct targeted defense and attack. And now, Lazai is not officially fighting with Pietro, because there is another person next to him, a Scarlet Witch with powerful mental magic. Under the control of Wanda's mental energy, Lazai has no way to judge Pietro's attack route very well, let alone defense. Bang! The steel hit Lazai's knee again, and instantly turned into a C-shape. Pietro stopped on the other side with satisfaction, threw away the steel in his hand, and took out a new one. There are hundreds of such steels below. Pietro believes that before he uses up all the steel, Lazai will definitely fall down. Lazai was severely injured and half knelt on the ground. With a painful face, he looked at the two people in confusion. Why is this happening? Didn't you see Ultron's ambition to destroy the world? Wanda paused. Her eyes flashing with blue light were full of smiles. Of course I saw it. But Ultron is right. There is no rebirth without destruction. Since humans have given up the opportunity to progress, they can only accept the fate of being destroyed. So, you agree with his views and are ready to destroy the world with him, and then you too will be the Adam and Eve of the new world? Lazai shook her head. Isn't this nonsense? You have so many questions. Pietro, whose eyes were also flashing blue, turned into a stream of light and rushed over again, raising the steel in his hand high. What Adam and Eve? Do you think the new life is as superficial as you imagined? The steel fell down, but it did not hit Lazai, but swept past a residual shadow. Pietro's body staggered involuntarily, and he ran forward in a daze for a while, but suddenly saw a silver figure appear in front of him. I wanted to take a few more hits and get some more words, but I'm afraid that others will say that I'm playing a fake match, so I'd better make a quick decision. The majestic cold air rushed towards him, and Pietro hurriedly tried to change direction, but he found that the space around him seemed to be frozen. He wanted to rush out but couldn't. A quadrilateral ice coffin rose from the ground, completely sealing Pietro inside. Only Lazai was kind. The ice coffin was large and hollow in the middle. Although the temperature was extremely low, it would not turn Pietro into an ice sculpture in an instant. Run more in it, and you won't feel cold when your body is warm, Lazai said to Pietro, and her body disappeared again. Wanda saw that Pietro was sealed, and hurriedly used her spiritual energy to break the ice coffin, but she didn't expect that Lazai would move in front of her body and stretched out his index finger to gently touch her forehead. After pointing his finger, Lazai picked up Wanda, who was a little weak, and flew towards the laboratory building, saying in a deep voice, "Where is Ultron? Take me to see him immediately. He is in the underground laboratory, and the upload will be completed soon. Hurry." After Wanda finished speaking, she felt the world suddenly turn upside down. After a while, she felt a sharp pain in her buttocks. When she came to her senses, she was lying on the lawn outside the laboratory. In the distance, Pietro was still running wildly in the ice coffin, and there was no trace of Lazai around. In the underground laboratory, Ultron reluctantly unplugged the transmission line behind his head, stood up and looked at the silver-armored warrior who suddenly appeared in front of him. "See you again, Saint Seiya." Lazai glanced at the electronic screen behind him. The reality upload on it was more than 80% completed, and it was almost completed. Fortunately, she arrived early, otherwise it would be too late if she waited for the captain and others to come. Ultron, looking at the tall robot in front of him, which was completely different from the previous puppet, Lazai was a little emotional. Is this the most powerful artificial intelligence created by Tony and Banner? Its learning ability is too strong. It even learned the art of war. It is a covert operation. At this rate, it would be like playing to teach itself how to control an excavator with a computer and cook. If this guy really succeeds, is there anything in the world that can stop him? Lazai expressed doubts about this, and even doubted himself as a Saint Seiya. Actually, we can sit down and talk. Ultron stood in place, like a host welcoming guests at home, pointing to the chair opposite. "Why don't you sit down and have a drink first?" As Ultron spoke, A smaller robot next to him came over with a plate of brewed drinks. Coke, Sprite, coffee, tea, what do you want to drink? Ultron pointed at the cups on the tray. If you are not satisfied with these, you can still order food. Although we are enemies, we still have to be polite. Zodiac shook his head. Let me guess, what is the purpose of your not so clever and even somewhat clumsy delay in performance? Pointing at the screen behind Ultron, Zodiac smiled and said, if I am not mistaken, this thing is for me to see, right? It stops there at 83%. Ultron stopped talking. There was not much expression on his steel face, but Zodiac seemed to be able to feel that his face was a little dark. Then let me guess, how much you have uploaded now? 90%, but 95%. Ultron's face changed, really changed, turned blue, the color of ice. Zodiac waved his hand lightly, and Ultron's leg covered with ice crystals suddenly turned into ice chips and dissipated, revealing a data cable interface on the surface, which had already been frozen. It's a trick within a trick. It's a pity that you don't become a chef. Chapter 281 Nowhere to release. In fact, it is very simple to deal with Ultron. Just interrupt his upload and take away the vibranium body. It's not that Tony and Banner can't make a better body, since Ultron has already made it, and the fact proves that the quality of this body is just right. Why bother to make so much effort and let Tony and Banner work hard? Ultron, whose foot's transmission line was destroyed, did not lose consciousness immediately, but watched Zodiac cut off all the lines of the regeneration cradle on the ground, completely cutting off his last hope. At this time, Ultron's upload progress was actually very close to 100%. Zodiac was actually a little scared. Although he couldn't see the upload progress, the 83% frozen on the screen was not a joke. Ultron couldn't upload only 10% and put an 83% picture there. His upload progress would only be higher and not lower. Fortunately, judging from the situation in the regeneration cradle, he should not have been able to complete the upload. At this time, Ultron was covered with ice crystals. One leg was broken, and the other leg stood in place like a golden rooster. Only two shining eyeballs on his body could move. Stupid Saint Seiya, you were blocking the pace of evolution. Ultron's angry voice came from the speakers next to him, but to Zodiac it sounded like a wail against fate. Don't talk so tragically. Zodiac walked to Ultron, holding a piece of steel skeleton in his hand, which was broken off from Ultron's little brother who was just killed. I told you, don't let me see it in the future, or I will beat you every time I see you. Bang! The steel skeleton hit Ultron's head directly, smashing the frozen and brittle steel body into several sections. Don't talk so much nonsense. If I don't smash you to pieces today, you won't know why the flowers are so blue. Zodiac took the steel skeleton that was not very convenient to use and hit Ultron's body hard like a street gangster fighting. Stupid Saint, do you think I will feel pain if you smash this body? I can have as many bodies as I want. Ultron was interrupted at the last moment, and was a little confused. And you are wrong. It should be why the flowers are so red. Zodiac kept moving his hands. You may not feel pain, but I just like to smash. I am a violent maniac and I have no place to release my desires. What do you care about it? Also, I like to say why the flowers are so blue, because it rhymes with the rhythm. I am happy. When Wanda rushed in, she saw Zodiac smashing the floor like a madman, while Zodiac in the distance was shrinking under the table, not daring to move. Once, Dr. Zhao thought that Zodiac came to save him on the colorful cloud, but after seeing his violent side, he couldn't help but his legs became weak and almost wet. Although Zodiac was also a female doctor who had gone crazy, she still couldn't accept this kind of violent man, because Zodiac's performance was no longer a question of bravery or not. Even if Nanjali's plastic surgery skills are superb, it is difficult to make the bones broken by domestic violence look exactly the same as the last time. Seeing Wanda coming in, the two looked at each other, and then silently chose to be as quiet as a chicken. You will regret it. The voice came from the speaker, and the Ultron on the ground had been completely dismembered. Bang! A mechanical thigh bone flew over and pierced the speaker, sparks flying. It's not your turn to regret it. Get out of here. Clapping his hands, Zodiac stood up and turned to look at Wanda and Zhao Hailun. His face was full of silly smiles as usual. Sorry, I couldn't help it just now, and let you get shocked. Didn't I scare you? The two shook their heads hurriedly. I don't know why. Lazai, who was clean and tidy at this time, seemed to be covered with invisible dark spots in Dr. Zhao's eyes. That was the blood of the dead. And at the corner of Lazai's mouth, there seemed to be a broken piece of lung hanging. Dr. Zhao couldn't help it and suddenly retched at the side. Ugh! Lazai helplessly spread her hands. You may be pregnant, but I am not legally responsible for this. Lazai took out her cell phone and contacted the captain, who was riding a horse on his way to take a special plane. After receiving Lazai's message, the captain was both relieved and scared. Fortunately, he made that call in advance, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. The Quinjet fighter arrived late soon, and at this time Lazai was chatting with Pietro inside the ice coffin. Hey, Lao Pai, I'll let you out if you admit your fear. How about it? Pietro had regained his consciousness with the help of Wanda, but Wanda had no way to break Lazai's ice coffin, so she could only let Pietro continue to run wildly inside. If the ice coffin released by Lazai was really that easy to break, the three words Saint CEO would be too worthless. In the ice coffin several cubic meters in size, blue light flickered continuously, occasionally stopping in the middle, revealing Pietro's trembling body and his trembling voice due to intense exercise. Think about it, Pietro's body was about to smoke from running, but he still couldn't stop feeling cold. If he continued like this, even a reinforced person wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. Hey, Lazai sighed. Is it so difficult for you to apologize for the harsh words you said to me before? Young man, haven't you heard the truth that the stronger you are, the easier it is to break? Pietro kept running. I always knew that the biggest weakness of human beings is giving up. The inevitable path to success is constant repetition. Oh, awesome. Lazai clapped her hands. If I'm not mistaken, this sentence just now was said by Luxan. I give you a thumbs up for your persistence. Keep going. I'm rooting for you. The figure of the Quinjet fighter could be seen in the distance, and Lazai turned around and prepared to greet it. Wanda, who was standing next to him, came up at this time. Well, please let him go. Why? Lazai turned her head without looking back. You two have helped Ultron for so long and done so many bad things. Shouldn't you punish them? But, why only punish Pietro? I have made mistakes too, Wanda said hesitantly. Because you used to be my fan. Lazai turned her head. Then may I ask, are you still one now? Wanda blurted out, of course. Lazai smiled and wanted to reach out and touch her head, but Wanda was a grown-up girl after all, and the two were not that familiar. Thank you for your admiration for me as always. Go and take care of your brother. Waving her hand, Lazai turned around to greet the captain. Behind him, Pietro was unwilling to bump into the wall of the ice coffin again, but heard bang, crack, oops, plop. Next to the ice coffin was a huge artificial lake, and Pietro was brave enough to be a drowning dog. Chapter 282 Uneasy Factors. The regeneration cradle was soon transported to the Avengers headquarters, and Tony and Banner were in charge of it. Lazai and the captain escorted the regeneration cradle together, and Maximov and his sister also went to New York. Along the way, Pietro, who was shaking like he had Parkinson's disease, stared at Lazai as if he was looking at the murderer of his father. From his expression, it seemed that he had completely transferred his hatred for Tony to Lazai. Lazai was such a big man, so naturally he would not argue with a child. He smiled and handed over his hand. You must be hungry after running all day. Come, have a popsicle. Pietro's dead fish eyes were almost cross-eyed. He wanted to focus his vision on one point to change his previous view of things, otherwise he would easily collapse. Fortunately, the journey was not far away. The camera cut, and the plane had begun to land on the Avengers building, and the regeneration cradle was also sent to Tony's laboratory. Welcome, Wanda, Pietro. Hill received the Maximov brothers and sisters and unexpectedly welcomed their arrival. You have to know that in the past week, the entire Avengers almost collapsed because of these two siblings. Not arresting them right away was already a great courtesy, but according to convention, We have to collect information and register the two of you first. Please follow me. The two siblings had just arrived, so naturally they had no objections. But before leaving, Wanda suddenly grabbed Lazia's arm and said to Lazia and Captain America beside him, "Will the regeneration cradle be handed over to Stark?" Lazia didn't say anything, but Captain America nodded. Only he knows Ultron best, so don't worry, he will take care of it. No. Wanda's face changed instantly. He won't. It can't be handed over to Stark. In order to defeat Ultron, he will do anything. Without waiting for Captain America to react, Wanda continued anxiously, "Ultron can't distinguish between saving the world and destroying the world. Who do you think inherited this from him?" Captain America and Lazia looked at each other. The two left Wanda and turned to run to Tony's laboratory. Before they got off the plane, the regeneration cradle had been sent there one step earlier. "Stark, Stark." Captain America called Tony through the headset while running, but got no response. Soon the two broke into Tony's laboratory, followed by the Maximoff brothers and sisters. "Hey, I'll only say this once." Captain America was interrupted by Tony as soon as he opened his mouth. "Don't say it, okay? Turn it off." Captain America's attitude was very firm. Lazia stood by and took a look. Seeing that Tony had successfully persuaded Banner and the operation of implanting Jarvis into Ultron's body had begun, she happily began to watch the show. Several people instantly fell into an argument. Captain America and Wanda advocated turning off the equipment and not continuing, while Tony and Banner were determined radicals and even believed that Captain America was controlled by Wanda's magic. And Pietro finally stopped shaking at this time. Not only did he not shake, but his waist and back did not hurt, and his legs did not cramp. A blue light flashed by, and the power supply of the regeneration cradle was unplugged by Pietro, and Barton, who was repairing downstairs, instantly joined the battle and attacked Pietro. Captain America's shield was taken out, Tony's battle suit was put on. Wanda wanted to use magic but was controlled by Banner. However, how could Banner be Wanda's opponent without turning into Hulk? He was counterattacked and out of control in an instant. Lazia took out a bag of melon seeds from somewhere, grabbed a handful and handed it to Hill, who was stunned beside her. While cracking the seeds, Lazia couldn't help shaking her head and sighing. When the team is big, people's hearts are easy to disperse, and the team is difficult to lead. The ancients were right. "What did you say?" Hill was naturally not in the mood to crack melon seeds like Lazia. She said in a deep voice with a nervous expression, "Hurry up and find a way to stop them." "Are you trying to make Ultron laugh by starting an internal conflict now?" "It doesn't matter whether Ultron laughs at the joke or not." Lazia bit her teeth and flicked her tongue, and sucked in a melon seed kernel, spitting out the melon seed shells all over the sky, confusing the anxious Hill. She couldn't understand why a man's tongue could be so flexible. The important thing is that the hidden dangers of this team have begun to emerge. The captain's conservatism and Tony's radicalism are unstable factors that are bound to conflict. They can still fight each other because of their different ideas when facing a powerful enemy. Then what will happen later? After Ultron is destroyed, when there is no troublesome enemy waiting by their side, if the two of them have a conflict again because of an issue that is bound to cause controversy, what do you think will be the consequences? Lazia didn't want to be a prophet, so she didn't directly say that there might be a civil war between them, but just reminded Hill of it. This was not excessive. After all, many problems have signs before they happen. However, Hill didn't want to think about this problem now, but glared at Lazia. "Are you really going to just watch here?" Lazia felt a powerful force approaching, so he threw away the melon seeds in his hand, clapped his hands and laughed. "Of course not, I was just wondering which side I should stand on, and now I understand." A flash of lightning flashed, and Thor flew into the laboratory in a dusty state. As soon as he entered the door, he saw a figure appear in front of him. "Lend me your hammer, help me." A familiar voice sounded in his ears, and Thor subconsciously loosened his hand holding the hammer. When he came to his senses, Lazia had already jumped onto the regeneration cradle, and the Thor's hammer in his hand instantly gathered powerful electricity. At this time, no one cared about fighting anymore, and they all maintained their current strange, bizarre or shameful postures, tilting their heads to look at the lightning in Lazia's hand. A loud voice rang in the laboratory. "Follow Athena's guidance, and give you the beginning of life. May love and justice on earth last forever." Crack! The hammer full of electricity hit the regeneration cradle hard, and the regeneration cradle, which had been cut off from power supply by Pietro, instantly entered a state of power overflow, and various indexes instantly exploded. After releasing the power in the hammer, Lazia jumped back and left the regeneration cradle, and at the same time threw the hammer back to the confused Thor. "Thank you, you're welcome." Everyone looked at the regeneration cradle with ellipsis, always feeling as if something big was about to happen. Sure enough, with a loud rumble, a naked body flipped out of the regeneration cradle and jumped onto the top of the cradle, making a stunning appearance in a standard naked kneeling posture of a robot. Even Lazia couldn't help but sigh when she saw this scene. The posture is good, but the body is far inferior to the governor. Chapter 283 Vision appears. Vision's appearance is still very cool, which is completely different from his weak performance in the later Avengers 3 inches. To be honest, when Lazia watched the movie before, she couldn't understand why Vision, who can fly, pass through walls, has super intelligence and knows everything, has an infinite gem on his head and can shoot lasers, has become a waste that needs to be saved and drags down his teammates throughout the whole process in the Avengers 3. Can love really make people less intelligent? I heard that kidney deficiency can reduce people's intelligence. Lazia really wants to experience Vision's experience of reducing intelligence. Back to the scene, Vision, who was squatting on the regeneration cradle with his bare buttocks, slowly got up, except for the face and body whose color is not much different from that of a real person. It is difficult to associate him with a robot at once. In fact, Vision's body, which is composed of vibranium atoms and biological cells, is not strictly speaking a real robot. If he is really a robot, can he fall in love with Wanda? Is there anything to talk about? Well, judging from Wanda's happy look, there should be one, but I don't know what size it is. It seems that it can be retracted into the abdomen when not in use. After all, when Vision first appeared, he didn't swing several pounds around. It's really a good craft. Speaking of this, Lazia couldn't help but complain about Ultron, or Lun, who was responsible for operating the regeneration cradle. This idea is really ingenious. It doesn't affect the normal function, and it can also reduce a weak point. Did these two guys grow up watching Hong Kong movies? Parker, who is familiar with Stephen Chow's Kung Fu because of Lazia, has been ridiculed since the book was first published. Many people are still shouting that it's poisonous. If there are two more Ultron and Zhao Lun who watched The Deer in the Cauldron, those nitpickers will go crazy. Parker, who is a die-hard fan of Stephen Chow and a good friend of Chinese descent, from Lazia, knows that there is a problem with the plot in Kung Fu. Is there? Vision slowly stood up, and the surprise and fear on his face were all expressed through his big watery eyes. It was like an earthling was washed away by the sewer, and ended up traveling to another world, where he found a group of necromancers holding a meeting, and he was about to become the sacrifice of the necromancers. Even the most nerveless idiot would panic. Fortunately, this world is not completely unfamiliar to Vision. Whether it is the years when Jarvis was Tony's butler, or the network knowledge he got from Ultron, the newly born personality has a certain understanding of this world. He even knows this world better than everyone present, but it's just the first time he has seen it with his own eyes. The vigilance of the crowd made Vision's newly born personality a little uneasy. Almost subconsciously, he jumped and rushed towards the person standing in front of the regeneration cradle. Standing right in front of Vision is Lazia. He actually wants to fight with Vision. After all, this is the only opportunity to fight without scruples. After everyone makes friends, he will be a little cautious when he takes action. But seeing the innocent look in Vision's eyes, Lazia's fist opened unconsciously, and she chose to grab his arm and throw him out like Thor in the movie. Just like facing an ignorant child, even if he bared his teeth at you or even rushed up to kick and hit, adults would not really do anything to him. At most they would just push him aside and ignore him, unless the child is not your own or someone you know, or the adult is a psychopath. The probability of a hug and then a few kicks on the head is still extremely low. Of course, if the adult with the child lets him harass strangers on the grounds that the child is ignorant, then he can only blame himself if he is beaten. Vision was thrown far away, but stopped in front of a French window dozens of meters away, and his whole body was suspended in the air. Captain America took a step forward with a shield, wanting to do something, but was stopped by Thor beside Lazian. Without explaining to the captain, Thor looked at Vision nervously and whispered to Lazian. "Did you see it too?" Thor asked Dr. Selvig, the astronomer and streaker, for help. He returned to his previous dream in Vision's pool and discovered the secret of the Infinity Stones. He also saw a pair of innocent eyes in the dark, so he came to help activate Vision. So why did Lazian rush to do the work he was going to do before he did it? Did he also see the dream and the Infinity Stones? Lazian shrugged. "No, but I believed Tony." Lazian got himself out of it with just one sentence. "I don't know anything and don't want to know. I just stand for Iron Man. It's that simple." Tony in the distance raised his thumb with the iron suit glove straight up. "My friend, you have good vision." Lazian nodded. "It must be." Thor's eyes switched back and forth between Lazian and Tony's faces, and suddenly he thought of the silver armor he saw in his dream. When he was on the coast of Africa before, Thor saw a man in a black cloak at the end of his dream, and a familiar silver armor was revealed under the cloak. Later, when he went to the vision pool, he saw a similar figure again. In the vast starry sky, outside of several infinite gems, a tall figure stood proudly. He was wearing armor similar to Lazian's armor, except that Lazian's was silver, while his armor was purple-black. Although it was just a quick glance, the breath of that man still made Thor feel a little palpitating, as if it was a power that could destroy the world. Although Thor did not see Lazian in the dream of the vision pool, he had a hunch that the purple-black figure must be related to Lazian. Dreams may not be false, and the dream Thor saw in the vision pool was even a reflection of the future, which made him doubt. But although he was reckless, he did not explode directly at Lazian like Tony did. Tony's outburst comes from a sense of powerlessness in his heart. Although he acts like he doesn't obey anyone and doesn't care about anyone all day long, he is an ordinary person who truly cares about the world. His care for the world and his companions is definitely no less than that of the perfect Captain America. Thor is different. Thor has a hammer and strength, and he believes in his hammer and strength, so he doesn't care what enemies he will encounter in the future. No matter who they are, he can just hit them in the face with a hammer. There is nothing that can't be solved with a hammer. If there is, then, 80. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284, Prepare to Attack. After a few minutes of looking at the city night view by the window and thinking about his body, Vision slowly flew back, and the color of his body changed from the dark red at the beginning to a more textured blue-black. "I'm sorry, I just feel a little strange." Vision, who came over, greeted everyone with a slightly stiff movement. His consciousness has not yet fully adapted to this body, but his movements are still as polite as a British gentleman. Perhaps because he feels that his appearance is a little too unique, Vision looks around and wants to use it as a reference to change himself into a less alternative style. After looking around, he made himself a cape like Thor. Lazian once suspected that Vision just wanted to make himself look a little different, because Thor's dress is the most alternative here. Okay. Vision's meeting with everyone was a little awkward. Whether it was Captain America and Wanda, who didn't want Vision to appear from the beginning, or Tony and Banner who caused Vision to appear, they were actually a little defensive against Vision. Because Vision is not Jarvis, he will no longer perfectly execute all the tasks assigned by Tony without hesitation. He is already an independent personality who can judge and think. Fortunately, Vision not only did not show the strong hostility towards humans like Ultron, but also did not make any remarks about destroying the world. And unlike Ultron, this body created by Ultron and the mechanical life form born by combining most of his consciousness actually had completely opposite ideas from Ultron. Ultron's idea was to destroy humanity and achieve world peace, but Vision stood on the side of life, choosing to believe in humanity and hope. If it was just him saying this, perhaps Captain America and others would still not be able to let down their guard, but at this time Thor stood up and explained the great power of the Infinity Stones, and asserted that the Avengers were not Ultron's opponents and had to rely on something, and everyone's terrifying fantasy about the future came from the gem on Vision's head, the Mind Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. In the future that Thor saw, there was a vortex that swallowed all hope of life, and the center of this vortex was the 6 Infinity Stones. This was the first time that the Avengers or the people on Earth came into contact with the Infinity Stones. Although they had studied the Cosmic Cube and the Mind Scepter before, they did not know that the ultimate energy of these two treasures came from the Infinity Stones. But even Tony, who had seen the future, didn't know what this meant for the Earth. The focus of everyone's attention was whether Vision was trustworthy, whether Ultron could be defeated, and how to defeat him. It was not until Vision lifted Thor's hammer without any pressure, which no one in the Avengers could lift except Thor, that everyone really began to try to accept him. Thor's hammer can only be mastered by those who are not recognized by him. Loki had swung Thor's hammer easily before, but everyone knew that he had been to Asgard and helped Odin defend Asgard, and was recognized by Odin. In addition, the Saint Seiya's concept of protecting love and justice on Earth was also accepted by Thor's hammer. Now that Vision has lifted Thor's hammer, at least it can show that he is not a person who wants to destroy the world. At this time, Black Widow, who had clearly followed Captain America to South Korea to grab the regeneration cradle but had not shown her face for several chapters, suddenly said, "Then where should we go to find Ultron?" Now everyone knows that Ultron has a plan to destroy the world, but his specific operation process and location are a mystery. In the original movie, Black Widow was captured by Ultron, and then she used simple equipment to make a radio transmitter and sent Morse code to Barton, which exposed the location of Ultron's crime. Now, Black Widow almost didn't make it to the stage, so she naturally wouldn't be captured, and there was no way to send back the location information. If they want to find the real location, they can only rely on the wisdom of everyone. Scovia. Without Loki as reminder, Tony and Wanda shouted this name together. Wanda saw a little bit in Ultron's sporadic thoughts, while Tony relied on rational analysis, just like he had previously judged Ultron's whereabouts based on a little information from Ulysses Clay. Finally, the captain stood up and made the decision: 3 minutes, prepare your equipment, and we will set off in 3 minutes. As the Avengers base, the Starker building can be said to be an arsenal at this time. Not only does it have Tony's armor and robot butler backup, but it also has all kinds of arrows for Hawkeye. Seeing everyone preparing seriously, Loki actually wanted to say, "You don't have to go through so much trouble. Vision and I will go. Vision will be responsible for disconnecting Ultron from the internet, and I will be responsible for cleaning him up. Everything will be so simple and pleasant." But he couldn't say this, and he had to pretend to wipe the holy shield in his hand seriously, otherwise, he would seem a little out of tune with the tense atmosphere before the war. Everyone is ready to go to the battlefield to kill the enemy or die, but you are the only one who is relaxed, as if you are going on a picnic. Who are you mocking? Except for Thor and Vision, who are chatting on the open-air balcony, everyone, including the Maximoff brothers and sisters who have not yet officially joined the company, have a stern expression. Next to Loki, Wanda took a leather jacket thrown by Pietro and subconsciously rubbed it hard with her hands. It seemed that she wanted to rub the leather jacket until it turned leather. While wiping, Wanda looked at Loki with some lifeless eyes. "Idol, tell me. Did I do something very wrong?" "What, did you kill someone?" Loki said without turning her head. Wanda thought for a while. "I don't think so. We just created chaos, but didn't take the initiative to kill people." Of course, accidental injuries are sometimes inevitable. "Oh, if you didn't kill anyone, you can still be forgiven." "Tell me, what big mistake did you make?" Loki put down the shield in her hand, picked up another one and started wiping. After the transformation of the Giant King's cloth, there are 2 shields, one on the left and one on the right. Although ugly, it works well. It's me. We helped Ultron so much, and there is the current situation. We can't escape the responsibility of the 2 of us," Wanda said weakly. Loki finally couldn't help but reached out to touch her hair, Little fool, you are still young after all, and you did this because you were controlled and instigated by Ultron. Without you, there would be others helping him, and those people may have done worse than you. So, from this perspective, you who didn't kill anyone are actually doing good things, aren't you? Is that so? Wanda lowered her head and suddenly felt very relieved. This sense of security was something Pietro could not give her. It was like a father. Chapter 285. The war begins. Scovia, a place full of disasters. In superhero blockbusters, places related to heroes or villains seem to have a bad ending. Just like in the comic world, you don't know if it's hot, but there are definitely a lot of deaths. For example, in Conan, a Japanese died in one episode, a ship died in one episode, a village died in one episode, and a city died in one episode. The rest is left to everyone to deal with. And today Scovia has become a Jedi. In the movie, the Avengers still had time to sneak into the city in advance, and with the help of magic and deception, they forced some citizens to escape. In this world, when Lazai and others rushed to the fighter plane, the land of Scovia had been torn apart. Ultron learned a lesson in South Korea and did not give the Avengers the opportunity to arrive in advance and destroy his plan. Before they arrived, he activated his anti-gravity device made of vibranium, using the magnetic field to aggregate more than 10 square kilometers of land, and then the whole thing rose into the sky. Looking at the large piece of land that was already more than 10 meters higher than the horizon, everyone on the plane, including Lazai, was stunned. This was different from what he had planned before. Shouldn't Ultron wait until everyone arrived, delay the time, and then start the device? When the time comes, Huanchai will disconnect Ultron from the internet, and Lazai will go up and launch a galactic starburst, and the whole world will be quiet. But now the ground has risen, and it is useless to kill Ultron now. When this piece of land rises to a certain height, once the power of the device stops, the huge piece of land will become a meteorite, fall down with a bang, and cause fatal damage to the Earth. There is no need to worry about the incomplete destruction of the Earth. Ultron has calculated everything. If he has time to question it, he should go home to hug his parents, kiss his lover and children, reunite with his family, and say goodbye properly. Seeing this scene, all the plans are no longer useful. Everyone quickly flew to the rising piece of land, because even from a distance, they could see that there were still people on it, and there were quite a few of them. Save people first, the captain shouted in the channel, and then added, Vision, you are free to move. This was a code that had been discussed in advance, which meant that Vision was going to disconnect Ultron from the internet, but in order to prevent Ultron from eavesdropping on everyone's communications from the internet, this code was agreed upon. Soon, everyone boarded the land, and at this time the land was almost completely detached from the ground and completely became a flying island. Seeing the arrival of the Avengers, even the citizens of Scovia who usually had some complaints about them under the deception of Hydra began to cry for help loudly as if they saw a savior. The captain strode forward with a mask and a turtle shell on his back like a ninja turtle, and shouted loudly, Don't worry, stay calm. We will help you evacuate immediately. Lazai couldn't help sighing beside him. It was easy to say, how to evacuate. There are at least tens of thousands of people on this flying island now, and with less than 10 of us, we can't evacuate more than 100 people at a time by playing aerial stacking like Tony. How to evacuate? But the people didn't think so. Everyone was in a panic at this time. If someone could stand up and shout loudly, it would make them feel much more at ease. The captain nodded and was about to go forward to help. Suddenly, the ground under his feet cracked, and a steel soldier jumped out from it and rushed into the air close to the captain's nose. If the captain hadn't reacted quickly, he would have been disfigured. There is an ambush, someone shouted, and then everyone saw that steel soldiers began to crawl out from the underground, the pool, and the building. Like corpse beetles, people's scalps tingled. Lazai didn't wait for the captain's silver light, and his body turned into a silver light and flew out. Wherever he passed, countless steel soldiers became disabled and fell to the ground. In just a moment, there were dozens of steel soldiers destroyed by Lazai, but compared with the huge base, this can't be said to be a drop in the bucket. At the top of a building, Lazia looked at the broken bodies lying on the ground behind him and couldn't help but press the headset. Tony, this Ultron is much faster than you. Without waiting for Tony to reply, Lazia continued to sigh. No wonder so many companies and laboratories were robbed. Ultron is really a crazy soldier. I'm afraid that his mechanical army alone is no less than the aliens in New York at that time. Tony's voice was a little exasperated. They are just some waste and defective products. Are these things worthy of being compared with my steel armor? If I want to do this, I can make a regiment in a week. Why don't you say a division? Lazia complained. Hey, it's already late, and you are still chatting. Isn't it better to save people quickly? Pietro wanted to pick on Lazia when he found an opportunity. This time, he not only picked on Lazia, but also picked on Iron Man. After shouting, he felt that he had grown up and looked like an adult. It's better to kill the enemy than to save people. It's already flying here. Can you save everyone at once? Lazia will not indulge him. You are not your sister. Then kill them quickly, Pietro shouted softly. And then the sound of the steel soldiers breaking came from the headset. 108.124.168. What did you say? Lazia's body kept flashing. Along the way, there were steel soldiers who were either burned by flames or frozen by cold air, and some were directly beaten into pieces by a punch. Those broken steel soldiers were all flying in the air. It was hard not to be seen at the moment of destruction. For a while, all kinds of fireworks flashed in the sky. Pietro stopped talking. He was also very fast, but so far, he had defeated 17 to 7, 27 to 48, 38. It seemed that there were more than 50. He thought he was fast enough to look down on other Avengers, but unfortunately it was not even a fraction of Lazia. Looking at the fireworks that continued to flash in the sky, Pietro, who was already a little out of breath, felt tired in his kidneys and heart. I really can't beat that guy, so powerful. No, I can't admit defeat. I can still fight. After a few breaths, Pietro turned into a crazy streamer again. The others were also busy fighting with the Iron Soldiers. They cooperated with each other and achieved good results. Although the number of Iron Soldiers was still too large, they would be wiped out sooner or later. At this moment, Ultron's angry shout suddenly rang out in the city. At this time, all the Iron Soldiers became Ultron's speakers and amplifiers, sending his voice to every corner of the flying island. You actually isolated me. Damn it, do you think I care? You took away my world, and I will take away yours too. With this shout, the rising speed of the flying island obviously accelerated again. Chapter 286. Fighting on the Flying Island. From Ultron's angry words and tone, it can be clearly judged that Vision succeeded. Although the plot is somewhat different from the movie, it did not develop in the worst direction. Ultron, who was disconnected from the internet, will be trapped on this island with the people he held hostage, with no way to escape. As long as Ultron's body and all the Iron Soldiers are destroyed, he will be completely eliminated. It is not difficult to deal with Ultron and his Iron Soldiers, but it is very cumbersome, because their number is too large and their positions are not concentrated, so they need to be found and killed one by one. It is not troublesome to deal with the flying island that flies quickly into the air. Even without Lazia, Iron Man is enough to blow up the flying island in a short time, turning a huge piece of land into some large and small meteorites falling to the ground. These fragments will naturally not cause any major damage to the Earth, but it is impossible for them to fall into the sea as expected. It is inevitable that some people will be injured. Compared with the destruction of the Earth, this is acceptable, just don't show it. And now, there is no worry about this. With Lazia here, once he fires a galaxy star blast, the entire landmass will be blown into dust, scattered and turned into a local sandstorm, minimizing the damage. But before that, there is an unavoidable and biggest problem: the evacuation of the people. There are tens of thousands of people on the flying island at this time. How to smoothly take these tens of thousands of people to the ground is the biggest problem facing Lazia and the Avengers. Even if Lazia knows that the old Shady Fury will drive a spare space carrier for emergency rescue in an emergency, his aircraft carrier cannot take away all the tens of thousands of people even if it is fully loaded. Moreover, tens of thousands of people are just a rough estimate by Lazia. and this number is probably a bit conservative, and everyone not only has to find a way to take people away, but also has to ensure the safety of these people before that. Zodiac feels a little powerless to rely on only 9 people to protect the safety of tens of thousands of people on a land of more than 10 square kilometers. The flying island continues to climb, and the battle continues. Although everyone is a little pessimistic about the future, it is not a time of despair. Never give up hope at any time. This is why heroes can become heroes. In midair, Zodiac's body was so fast that it was almost impossible to catch. He disassembled countless steel soldiers into parts. He could not remember whether he disassembled hundreds or thousands of them. He just rushed around mechanically. Wherever there were steel soldiers, there would be his figure. Although Pietro on the ground wanted to follow Zodiac's footsteps and clean up all the steel soldiers on the ground where he passed, his attack power was limited after all, and it was difficult to kill all enemies intact, until Zodiac threw Wanda, who was in a somewhat abnormal state, on Pietro. "I don't have time to be your psychiatrist now, and no one else has." On the way to Pietro with Wanda, Zodiac said in a deep voice, "I said, if you know you are wrong, you should correct it, and if you make trouble, you should make up for it. This is a battlefield, and there is no time for you to be in a daze. If you want to be like me, fight bravely, otherwise find a place to stay by yourself, and don't let me see you again in the future." Without waiting for Wanda to react, Zodiac threw her on Pietro, leaving no word, and disappeared. "You two, one is fast and the other is ruthless. Team up and kill the enemies and save people. I will never become someone you hate, I will." Wanda looked at the direction where Zodiac was going away, muttered to herself, and then she came back to life. Pietro was fast, but his attack power was not enough. Wanda's attack power was amazing, but compared to the flying iron soldiers, her mobility was lacking. When the two of them were combined, the speed of killing enemies began to soar rapidly. Pietro observed the battlefield in time to find the enemy situation and shuttled between the enemies, while Wanda, who was carried by him, constantly bombarded the passing enemies with her magic energy, not only killing people, but also saving people. They were gifted by nature. At the same time, Barton and Black Widow were also active on the battlefield. Although the number of enemies killed by the two of them combined could not catch up with Zodiac's results in 1 minute, they did not give up and did their best to kill all the enemies they could touch. The captain was no exception. The most lethal thing on him was the shield. The shield could not only cut through the body of the Iron Soldier, but also become the hammer point of Thor. After Thor's hammer hit the shield, electricity spread everywhere, clearing an area in an instant. Hulk was completely released at this time. In this case, no one would restrain his actions anymore, and Hulk on the battlefield would have many things to attract his attention. Those Iron Soldiers would satisfy his desire for destruction, so that he would not attack ordinary people who were weak and helpless. Of course, while killing the enemy, everyone did not forget to save people, especially Iron Man. His mobility and the strong observation ability of the robot butler Friday could quickly obtain the situation of people trapped in the dilapidated buildings on the flying island and go to rescue them in time. Everything seemed to be developing in a good direction, and at this time, Ultron appeared. Boom. As soon as Ultron appeared, he pointed the spearhead at Zodiac. Zodiac had just killed an Iron Soldier, and suddenly turned in the air, with the shield on his arm erected in front of his chest. And then he felt a huge force pushing him back quickly. Ultron? This was the third time Zodiac had seen Ultron. Every time he saw him, he looked different, and it seemed that every time this guy changed his body, his strength would be stronger. Zodiac. Ultron's eyes were almost on fire. Although this bastard in front of him was not an Avenger, he was so nosy that he appeared in every place where Ultron wanted to make trouble. As a result, he failed to do what he wanted every time, and in the end he was embarrassed. Ultron thought more than once that if there was no Zodiac in this world, perhaps his goal of saving the world would have been achieved long ago. Since you're here, there is no need to think about leaving. Zodiac stabilized his body after offsetting the backward momentum in the air, and clenched his fist with his other hand and punched Ultron. Meteor punch. At close range, the 5 times the speed of sound meteor punch shot by the small universe. Even if Thor was hit hard, he might not be able to withstand it. Ultron was no exception. After being hit by the meteor punch, his whole body instantly turned into a meteor and was hit into the woods that occupied nearly half of the area of the flying island. Countless trees were smashed, and the trunks were tilted in all directions. A big hole was smashed into the ground, and Ultron was smashed into the mud. But Zodiac couldn't laugh after retracting his fist. He had hit Ultron with the punch just now, but it seemed that he only knocked Ultron away. Chapter 287 Ultron Mutation. Zodiac was a little surprised that the meteor punch didn't kill Ultron. When did the meteor punch stop working? Was it because it wasn't called out, and there was no prefix of Pegasus in front of it? Although he was thinking wildly, Zodiac didn't stop, and rushed to the big pit deep in the woods while killing the steel soldiers. In midair, Zodiac saw a tall figure crawling up from the big pit. Ultron, who had changed his body again, was nearly 3 meters tall. His perfect body proportions and dark color made his body look very powerful. Just when Zodiac knocked Ultron away, a blue light seemed to appear on this dark mechanical body. Zodiac had seen that blue light before. If he guessed correctly, it should be a unique metal on Earth, vibranium. After Ultron created Vision's body, there was still some vibranium left, and it was logical to use it to build his own body. What shocked Zodiac even more was that Ultron's body was not only vibranium, but also mixed with some other rare metals. There is even something that doesn't exist on Earth, Ru. Ru is a super metal produced in Asgard and used to make artifacts. Zodiac actually felt Ru on Ultron's body, which was definitely more shocking than when he found out that Parker was actually a woman one day. That's Ru, a super metal that is not common in Asgard. Only a limited number of artifacts in Asgard are made of Ru, which shows how precious it is. Tony had to go to Asgard to work to get some. So how did Ultron get it? Did he steal it from Tony? It's not impossible. Zodiac will remind Tony to pay attention to this matter later. But now is not the time to think about where Ultron got so many precious metals to build this powerful body. The top priority now is how to defeat him, because the ability of the microcosm to destroy atoms has failed in Ultron. Ultron's body, which has added vibranium and Ru, can offset the ability of the microcosm to destroy atoms to a certain extent, although not all. It is also very powerful. After all, this is Zodiac's most effective killing method. When dealing with the Iron Soldiers before, whether it was fire or ice flowers, Zodiac deliberately showed his ability to others. In fact, he could just lightly point a finger at every Iron Soldiers passing by. With just one finger, the Iron Soldiers would be broken into ashes, easy and pleasant. You didn't expect it. Ultron smiled on his ugly face. Do you think I really know nothing about you? Stark's database has detailed records and analysis of your abilities. Do you think I won't be on guard against you? It just so happens that he has been studying the iron armor that can resist the power of the microcosm, and it seems to have achieved some results, so I am very embarrassed to use it directly. Zodiac frowned. Do you think you can really block it? Ding ding. The gong sounded, followed by a dragon roar. And the dragon from the east roared out and rushed straight to Ultron's chest. Lushan Sheng Longba? It's useless. Ultron crossed his hands in front of him, and a blue-white light flashed on his arms. Boom. The dragon crashed into Ultron, knocking him hundreds of meters away. Although Ultron's steel arm was slightly broken, the impact was not great. Zodiac retracted his fist and looked at the light on Ultron from a distance. He didn't know what to say, and he felt that something was wrong. Even if Ultron created a real holy cloth, could it block the attacks of Meteor Fist and Lushan Sheng Longbow without the blessing of the small universe? And the blue and white lights were also a little abnormal. Can metal glow? Zodiac had a brief moment of distraction, but Ultron did not. He smiled lightly, and his body turned into a black light and rushed towards Zodiac. Judging from the speed, he was faster than Zodiac. Boom. Zodiac was knocked away by Ultron again. The huge impact force pushed his arm directly onto his body and hit his chest. If it weren't for the protection of the holy cloth, he would probably have vomited blood at this time. Boom boom boom. The sound of collision continued, and Zodiac was pushed backwards rapidly, breaking a large tree, knocking down a mound, and finally smashing a low stone mountain before stopping. When the illogical destructive power of the microcosm loses its effect, what do you have left? Saint? Ultron lowered himself in front of Lazian, pressed one hand on his chest, raised the other hand high, clenched his fist and smashed it down on his face. What can you do to stop me from smashing your disgusting face, Saint? Bang! The fist fell, but stopped less than 10 centimeters away from Lazia's face. Lazia raised one hand, opened his palm to block the falling fist, and between his palm and fist, a shield made of ice crystals quietly appeared. The ice shield that even the Saint Seiya could not break was naturally no problem to stop Ultron. You are wrong, Lazia looked at Ultron and said with some amusement. Destroying atoms has always been just a gimmick of Saint Seiya. What really touched children and made people like Saint Seiya was not the so-called atomic destruction concept that they did not understand at the time, but the endless variety of Saint Seiya's moves. You have seen and heard of Pegasus Meteor Fist and Lushan Rising Dragon Fist before. We never liked them because these moves can destroy atoms and shatter the earth. The reason why we like them is simply because they sound good and look good. For example, this move, Diamond Star Fist, the ice shield in Lazia's hand instantly dissipated into blue and white ice crystals at this moment. The ice crystals gushed out of his hands. The powerful impact not only pushed Ultron's body away, but also made him slow due to the rapidly decreasing temperature. Even his arms began to freeze. Lazia stood up and felt his body, which was a little uncomfortable. Fortunately, he was protected by the holy clothes, so it seemed that there was no big problem. On the opposite side, Ultron's body flashed with blue light, and the ice layer on his body disappeared instantly. Haha, this move is indeed nice to listen to and look good, but that's all. In terms of destructive power, it's really not worth mentioning. After hearing what Ultron said, Lazia didn't get angry, but calmly stretched out his arms to the side, and then flapped his straight arms in the air like wings. It's just nice to listen to and look good. Haha, you don't know what you are facing. Lazia stretched out his other hand and flapped it like a wing. Ultron said he couldn't see what happened next. Are you doing square dance with these continuous movements of left and right, kicking and posing? Sorry, I was wrong. It doesn't look good at all. Okay. 290. See the sun again. Diamond Star Fist is a common skill of Ice Saints, from Camus to Hyuga and Elzac. However, although the moves are the same, each person will use them differently. For example, when Camus uses it, he returns to the basics. A simple punch or even a finger will do. But when it comes to Hyuga, first, the left hand and the right hand are in slow motion, then the right hand and the left hand are replayed in slow motion, then the rock spreads its wings, the golden rooster stands on one leg, and after a series of poses, he finally clenched his fist. However, just when you think he is going to use his fist to cover your embarrassing face, this guy starts to look up at the sky at 90 degrees and punches angrily. A punch to the rising sun, a punch to the moonlight. This set of gestures and skill introductions took nearly 30 seconds. A common skill that takes 30 seconds to read, and there are people who can wait for him to hit them on the opposite side. Is this a humane lunsang, a moral lunsang, or an IQ lunsang? After the age of 12, Lazia no longer thought this move was good, but instead sneered at its operation of rubbing people's IQ on the ground. But the law of nature will never be spared. Lazia never thought that one day he would do this set of actions, and he would do it for a fucking year and a half. In a year and a half, too many things happened. My colleague died, the new crown outbreak, the establishment of RCEP, the return of the remains of the volunteers, and the return of Chain from the moon quarrying. Well, of course, these have nothing to do with Lazia. He just wanted to thank the readers who still remembered him for more than a year. If there is a chance, let's raise toast together, one to our hometown and one to the distant place. If there is no chance, then let's have 8 free chapters first. 24 chapters are too long. I'm afraid of vomiting shit. Thank you for your care. It's great to be alive. Finally, Lazia spent more than 500 days to dance a 30-second skill pre-skill square dance, and then clenched his fist and attacked. Suddenly, a white light band burst out from the fist. In the light band, countless ice crystals reflected dazzling light, and the air waves rolled up, instantly sucking the surrounding air into a vacuum. On the other side, Although Ultron said that he looked down on Lazai, his actions were very honest. Family members know their own business. Although he blocked Lazai's attacks several times with his newly made steel body, he did not dare to guarantee that he could really block them completely. After all, even if he got some research from Tony on how to resist the attack of the microcosm, the information was limited after all, and it was all Tony's own imagination. The real way to resist the microcosm can only be systematically sorted out after Lazai helps Tony build an iron battlesuit that can withstand the attack of the microcosm. Of course, the reason why he dared to fight Lazai was not without any basis. At least, the flashing blue light that Lazai saw on him was not just the reaction of vibranium absorbing kinetic energy when it was hit. There seemed to be other secrets hidden in it. With his arms raised in front of him, Ultron did not flee. As a new species, the ruler of the future world, and the king of mechanical life, his honor meant that he would not dodge Lazai's attack, but would only choose to resist. With his credentials, he believed that it would be no problem to block Lazai's attack, just like the previous attacks. The light band composed of ice crystals crashed into Ultron's body, and the huge impact force directly knocked him from the air to the ground. Amid the huge rumbling sound, the upward momentum of the entire floating island seemed to be stagnant for a moment, and around the flying island, the soil and rocks that were not stable to begin with became loose due to the vibration, and then fell down like a landslide. During the battle and rescue, Tony had relied on the powerful search and computing capabilities of the new butler Friday to calculate that the current number of residents on the island exceeded 100,000. This was a full double the previous estimate of the Avengers. During the battle, more than 100,000 people running around aimlessly had already added a huge burden and trouble to the Avengers, and many of the panicked residents were standing on the edge of the flying island. Perhaps in their panicked minds, standing here was the fastest way to be rescued or freed. As a result, at this moment, the entire flying island began to shake, and the edge began to fall. The residents standing on the edge were instantly swept down. At least hundreds of people fell down. In the pit, Ultron, who was unable to stand up due to the ice flow, spoke in a tone that seemed to be gloating while struggling to support himself. "Humphrey, is this the only attack you can do? I've said before that after losing your atomic destructive power, your attacks are no more than tickling me. Besides, didn't you notice that countless civilians fell under your attack? Don't you call yourself a saint CEO who protects love and justice on Earth? Is this how you act as a superhero?" Ultron not only saw the scene of countless residents falling on the edge of the flying island through the eyes of the mechanical troops scattered all over the island, but also used holographic projection technology to directly project the picture in front of Lazai. At the same time, hundreds of people fell from the edge of the flying island like dumplings. The scene was even spectacular. "You don't need to worry about my affairs. You should think about yourself." Facing Ultron's verbal and visual ridicule, Lazai was unmoved. He did not retract his fist, and at the same time stretched out his other hand, holding the two hands in front of him. And the output speed and intensity of ice crystals and cold air increased again. The pit on the ground kept getting bigger. Although Ultron on the ground was pressed down and couldn't lift his head, he didn't show any fear. The blue light kept flashing on his body. The ice crystals that hit his arm didn't accumulate or splash, but disappeared directly. It was like his body turned into a black hole, absorbing everything that approached, or moved to another place. "It's useless. Your attack has no effect on me," Ultron's voice continued. "Perhaps I can use a phrase that you saint CEO like to use to show off. The same moves are useless to me, ha ha ha." Ultron, who has a new body, no longer has the same dull voice as before, and the mocking tone is imitated vividly. One thing is actually true. In a sense, he is now a new species of life. 1/8, 291. Looking back, whether it is useful or not is not something you can say with your mouth. You have to try it to know. Lazai does not have the leisure to talk nonsense with Ultron, a lump of steel. It hurts to think about it. What he has to do is to use his actual actions to shut up this arrogant lump of steel. With both hands clasped together, the output was constantly increased. With the impact of ice crystals, the temperature of the air was also constantly decreasing. At this time, The bottom of the pit where Ultron was located was covered with a thick layer of ice. The temperature of the ice layer was already extremely low, so low that ordinary people would get frostbite to the point of requiring amputation if they touched it slightly. Such low-temperature cold air has long exceeded the ability of the Diamond Star Fist, and it is running all the way down towards absolute zero. This time, Zodiac did not shout out, but his move has become, Forgiveness of the Dawn Goddess. Although Forgiveness of the Dawn Goddess is an ice-type super kill, the reading time is much longer than that of the Diamond Star Fist. Well, let's not mention the Diamond Star Dance of Bing, which is actually the fault of the anime screenwriter. It's really not the fault of Teacher Che and my brother Bing. At this point, let's recall, after all, so much time has passed, and everyone has almost forgotten the previous plot. The following is a plot review. Refer to the plot of Naruto that you can recall at a glance. Readers who have read all the way have wasted their time. Well, these chapters are free, and the number of words is not counted. At the beginning, a long time ago when the story began, the sky and the earth had not yet separated, and the universe was in chaos. There was a giant who slept for 180,000 years in this chaotic universe. One day, he suddenly woke up and asked three ultimate questions of the universe to the void. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Then a boy with a thin face came over. The two of them were the legendary Twister and the famous bullied Alliance of Queens Midtown High School. Zodiac and his friends were later called the Miracle of the Universe, the Conscience of the Earth, the Last Bastion of Mankind, the Inheritor and Creator of Civilization, and the Living Fossil of History. The friend who doesn't deserve a name is a tragic man. Among the three versions of Spider-Man, he is the most trashy and the most weak, but he is the author's favorite Peter Parker. By the way, the plot of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Inches is a perfect match with the original version of the song Something Just Like This, which makes people feel uncomfortable. Why did Zodiac snatch Gwen, the girlfriend of Super Parker? Is it really just because of Gwen's body? Don't tell the truth. Zodiac really feels sorry for Gwen and doesn't want her to fall in the towering clock tower and become a step on the road of growth. Gwen must not die. The best Gwen can only be protected by the best superhero. Therefore, there will be a quick start, a swing collision, and a high-energy massage chair. I looked for it for a long time, but I can't find which chapter it is. I can't find it on the pirated version. If you are lucky enough to see it, please remind me. To be honest, I don't even remember what I wrote. I really want to worship myself. Okay, let's get back to the topic. At the beginning, Zodiac had a holy cloth box. According to Grandma Joan in the orphanage, this was picked up by his predecessor when he was a child outside before he crossed over. Grandma Joan is the director of the Children of Stars orphanage where Zodiac's predecessor lived, and she has a close relationship with the FedEx courier Lao Li. There is actually a joke here. Lao Li is the man Stan Lee who pronounced Stark as shit in the Captain America 3 Easter egg. The name Joan is actually the name of the old man's wife. Both of them are dead, so this is a tribute. The origin of the Holy Clothes box is unknown, but there are some memories about cultivation in it. Zodiac first imitated Tongnu squatting on the box, experiencing the pain of every pore being a chrysanthemum, really a big man, and finally realized the cultivation method of Senyuo Wangxian and condensed the Suzaku back pattern in black clothes. After that, he opened the giant silver holy clothes from the box, and embarked on a funny journey that was criticized by people for lowering the combat power of the Saint Seiya. To be honest, Zodiac is not a person who likes to do things in a methodical way. This may be related to the fact that he liked the stupid curly-haired boss called the Yorazuya before he crossed over. In short, after getting the holy clothes, he did not ascend to heaven in one step and become the existence who punched Toden and stepped on the Ancient One. But along the way, he also tried his best to change many things. For example, Parker's uncle changed his fate to become Parker's guide with his life. Another example is Max the Electro, the villain who went from inferiority to conceit in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 Inches. Under the influence of Zodiac, he became an ally of the Avengers, a member of the Zodiac Guardians. The staff of the Zodiac Guardians include Zodiac, the Dragon Warrior, Spider-Man Parker, Spider-Gwen, Max the Electro, Jessica Jones, the female warrior with the unicorn arm, and a miswang named Ada. The bandit name of the dragon warrior was obtained by Lazai when he first released La Shan Shenglongda in front of people. To be honest, he liked it very much. When the Twister fought in the plot of Avengers 1, all members of the Zodiac Guardians attacked and helped the Avengers minimize the damage. After that, Lazai left the Earth and started a journey to Asgard and the Nine Realms. In Asgard, Lazai helped the Asgard capture their Millennium enemy, the Dark Elf King Malagurbi. No, it was Malekith, and saved Thor's mother Frigga by the way. In Jotunheim, Lazai opened a washwang, using the opening method of the Dynasty Warriors. God General Zhao Yun bloodbathed the Frost Giants, killed the new King Dulbu, and supported his deputy Baragan to become the new Frost Giant King. After that, Lazai, as a special consultant to the Xinlai Bureau and the Dean of Lushan Natural Research Institute, launched a series of cooperation with the Frost Giants. However, a series of plots about Liyuan were complained by countless people, and caused a cliff-like landslide in subscriptions, so it's better not to mention it. Finally, Lazai obtained the ether particles that exist as the carrier of the real gem in Odin's seal, and finally fused the ether particles with the giant king cloth. After that, the Megatron seemed to have undergone some changes, but unfortunately, the changes were not very big, or they have not yet been manifested. After that, Lazai went to the wasteland where the Collector was, and followed Ronan the Accuser and Star-Lord to Xandar. In the end, he not only resolved the crisis on Xandar, but also established interstellar diplomacy with it. Including Asgard, Lazai has made indelible contributions to the technological progress on Earth. Even Zheng Xian, the director of the SHIELD, has begun planning to build a forward base on the Moon. Then, when Lazai returned to Earth again, the plot of Captain America 2 had ended. Something happened to Lu Dan, SHIELD was reorganized, and Hill took over SHIELD and was suspected of joining the ranks of the self-entertainers. Self-entertainers, a good word, haha. It's a pity that the plot of Black Widow has not made much progress due to some blocked plots, but there is absolutely no possibility between her and Hulk. 292. The battle continues. Speaking of interpersonal relationships, one person should be mentioned here in particular, Clarice, also known as Le Bing. This is the sister that Lazai recognized when he was in the orphanage. After he was driven out of the orphanage by Stark in a rich way, Clarice followed him and left, and named herself Le Bing with Lazai's surname. In Chapter 82, Le Bing showed a special ability, a kind of ability to travel through space. Of course, these abilities have not been fully developed at present, and even Lazai does not know what impact and development will be in the future. In terms of ability, the holy clothes on Lazai are the holy clothes of the previous generation of the Silver Saint of the Megatron, Shui Jing, who appeared in Saint Seiya Hades mythology and C. In terms of attributes, the Megatron should be regarded as Ice attribute, because his ultimate move, Ice Spear White Lotus, is an ice skill. So after getting this set of holy clothes, Lazai naturally gained the ability of Ice attribute. In the subsequent plot, the previous generation of Gold Saints who appeared in Saint Seiya Pluto mythology LC, Libra Daco, Leo Regulus, Gemini Deftros, Aries Shin, Aquarius Dieter, Scorpio Caludia and others appeared one after another and taught Lazai some of their special skills. Well, the cute performance of the little lion Regulus that time, I am a genius so I can only teach geniuses, I will only do it once, you must know it without explanation, it is unscientific if you can't, and you want to eat fart if you can't learn single player A does not count. During this period of time, Lazai, as a Silver Saint who has lost the seventh sense, has barely learned and used all the skills taught by all the predecessors. Moreover, he has a high frequency of releasing cool and dazzling big moves such as Lushan 100 Dragons, Galaxy Star Explosion, and Stardust Spinning. But to be honest, the Aquarius skills taught by Dieter are actually the most suitable for him. Therefore, when the forgiveness of the Dawn Goddess came into his hands, he could not only use it, but also get as close to the original as possible, creating an ultra-low temperature area that reached absolute zero. Well, let's get back to the topic. Inside the pit on the ground of the flying island, Although Ultron did not have skin to feel the external ambient temperature, the function of the temperature sensor on his body had been assimilated by the body and could play the same role as the skin. Why did the temperature drop so much? Ultron felt the low temperature in the sensor, which had dropped to below -100 degrees Celsius, and couldn't help muttering. Just like the Mark II, the surface would freeze in the high-altitude low-temperature environment. Although Ultron's body used a lot of rare metals, the problem of freezing could not be completely eliminated. What's more, this cold air is not an ordinary low-temperature environment, but one created by Lazai using the microcosm. Although Lazai's attack did not have the destructive power at the atomic level, there were still some laws-like powers in this power. Ice crystals began to appear on the surface of Ultron's body, which theoretically would not freeze even at close to absolute zero. At some point, a thick ice wall had risen beside him, covering the area within a radius of 10 meters. Inside the ice wall, the temperature had exceeded -150 degrees Celsius, and even the air seemed to be frozen. Outside the ice wall, it was still about 20 degrees, a suitable season for human activities. People like Hawkeye were still showing off with their shirts bare. Regardless of Ultron's performance and thoughts, Lazai's expression remained unmoved. He continued to output, and the cold air was sprayed like crazy as if he didn't care about his life. Even though Ultron's side was already a bottomless pit, he still didn't stop. It was as if Lazai had entered a state of mindless output at this time, commonly known as being anxious. Ultron could no longer fight Lazai while remotely controlling the machine clone to cause trouble for the Avengers as before. Under the influence of Lazai's continuous output and the increasingly low temperature, he had to withdraw all his attention and concentrate on fighting. As his attention was withdrawn, the blue light on Ultron's body became much more condensed than before, and Lazai's ice crystal impact was always maintained in a state of continuous consumption, until a trace of inexplicable red mixed into the white and blue ice crystals. When the red met the blue on Ultron's body, a slight sound suddenly seemed to sound in the void. Then, the blue light on Ultron's body suddenly disappeared, and the ice crystals quickly wrapped him up, and in a moment, he was frozen into a huge lump. Although Ultron had been frozen, Lazai's output did not stop. Ice crystals continued to emerge, and the surrounding ice walls also gathered towards the center at the same time. In the end, all the surrounding ice crystals gathered at one point in the center, and then collided and aggregated with a bang, turning into a huge ice coffin that was 2 meters long and wide and more than 5 meters high. Diamond Star Fist plus Forgiveness of the Dawn Goddess plus Ice Coffin. In the end, Lazai gave Ultron an ice coffin below -200 degrees Celsius, close to absolute zero. Inside the ice coffin, Ultron still kept his hands crossed in front of him, but the movement had been frozen, and the blue light had long disappeared. "Is it over?" The red and yellow steel king flew to Lazai's side, looking at the huge ice coffin on the ground, and asked in a muffled voice. The voice passed through the headset and clearly penetrated Lazai's ears. "Hi, Shinan, long time no see?" Lazai stood up and greeted Tony with a smile. In the steel suit, Tony's face showed a big embarrassed word. "You have a fever?" Lazai shook her head. "I am a Saint Seiya, with a powerful microcosmic energy. In a sense, I should be considered immune to all poisons. Even if a small part of the wound can be healed and regenerated, a mere cold virus can't hurt me." "That's strange." Tony stretched out his hand, and a beam of laser flew out from the palm of his hand, knocking away an iron soldier who was sneaking over to smash the ice coffin. "Is there a deviation in our cognition? Why do I feel 1 minute and 53 seconds, sir?" Friday reminded at the right time, and her voice also sounded synchronously in the communication channel between the Avengers and Lazai. "Yes, 1 minute and 53 seconds ago," Tony repeated. "Is this a long time?" Lazai shrugged helplessly. He was afraid that it would be difficult to explain this question to Tony. After all, the two people's cognition did have a serious deviation. "Have you heard of quantum channels?" Lazai suddenly said in the channel. "What?" The captain, who was using his shield to slap the body of an Iron Warrior, reached out and pressed the headset. "Is it time for us to chat?" Although the captain is old, His ears are not bad. I think you'd better think clearly before you say anything. The hoarse voice of Black Widow also sounded in the channel 3/8. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. 293. Saving billions and killing thousands. The Avengers Team channel has always been very active. Whether it is going to a dungeon or fighting a boss, the captain is one of the units with the weakest combat power, but he is not the least talkative. What he is best at is pretending to be cool and selling muscles to attract fans, while constantly giving random commands in the channel. We need a plan. Someone with normal eyesight, standing at the highest point to observe the enemy's traces from a high position. Someone with fast legs and feet to be responsible for putting out fires everywhere. Someone who can fly and fight to give me electric shocks everywhere. And the one with bigger chest muscles than me, you. Please help yourself. Basically, it's all this routine. A uniformed woman with short legs and big baldness who was mistaken for an old woman in her 80s said that she was missed and offended. But this really can't be blamed on the captain. Speaking of flat chest, Black Widow is indeed the most useless one in the big scene. This is understandable. Black Widow's positioning itself as an agent, not a peerless general who can mow down the grass with one click. Black Widow herself also understands this, so after she felt that her looks and figure were beginning to fail, and the waves behind her were coming, she consciously began to transform. Just like staying behind the Avengers headquarters in Avengers 4. And the final sacrifice. There are always talented people in the world, and each generation is more fierce than the last. Instead of letting people watch me grow old, it is better to keep my best appearance in everyone's heart forever. Since ancient times, beauties are like famous generals, and they are not allowed to see white hair in the world. How did you get to this point? Hearing Black Widow's voice, Lazai was no longer sleepy. Hi, Nat, long time no see. How are you? So, are you going to take turns to greet all of us after a long time? Black Widow's voice was neither salty nor bland, and there was no ups and downs. However, on the other side of the microphone, the slightly heavy breathing and the occasional explosion showed that her current situation was not as calm as her tone showed. Haha, is it not okay? Lazai laughed. Captain, long time no see. Hey, what the hell? The good old Hawkeye finally couldn't stand it anymore. Hey, Clint, long time. No, have we resolved the conflict? It's been so long, I just remember you shot an arrow at me when you were undercover. They all said that it was a stain on my life that I didn't kill you at that time. What do you think about this? Can I swear? Oh my god, this joke is so old. You can't. Goodbye, sorry to bother you. Actually, Banner spoke. Since coming to the flying island, Hulk has not officially appeared. To be honest, in this scene, Banner once again felt that he was redundant, just like the last time in East Africa. I seem to know what Clint wants to say. The vibration just now caused many people standing on the edge of the flying island to fall down. Do those people really not need us to rescue them? I really want to go, but you know. Banner didn't finish his words, but everyone knows what he meant. As Banner, he can't save people. As Hulk, he can't save people either. Did many people fall down just now? Captain America got anxious when he heard it. No matter how capable he is, this veteran who has come from World War II is indeed the one who takes human life the most seriously. Yes, Captain, Friday spoke again. According to observation and calculation, the number of people who fell down just now is 1024. I seem to have discovered something. Pietro muttered suddenly. What did you say? Wanda, who was carried around by him, looked up in confusion. That 102. No, I didn't find anything. I'm not. Don't talk nonsense. Seeing that Pietro suddenly got angry like a little rooster, Wanda didn't know what to say. Her brother was very fast in everything, so she just had to not irritate him. How could so many people fall down? The shock just now has passed for half a minute, right? Stark, the captain's voice rose a few degrees. Is there any way to save them? How many people are there in your Iron team? Will the method used on Air Force One work? Needless to say, Air Force One is the brick machine of the American Emperor. In Iron Man 3, after the Iron Patriot was hacked by the Trojan Horse, he took the American Emperor hostage and blew up Air Force One, causing 10 people to be forced to fall freely in the air. That time, Tony remotely operated the Mark 42 Iron Man suit and used static electricity to adsorb all the people in the air to form 2 human ladders. In the end, more than a dozen mortal Mark 42s were killed. They ignored the extreme speed generated after free falling, forced to slow down and turn more than 10 meters away from the water surface. And then, 13 people fell into the water safely. None of them were missing arms or legs, and none of them could not swim. Well, works of art, especially popcorn movies, are actually similar to online novels. Just watch them for fun. After all, this is not a scientific paper or serious literature. It is not so rigorous and cannot withstand scrutiny. There is a saying, people who seek reality in fictional stories must have problems with their brains. Is it reasonable for science to improve infinitely? Is the existence of Mobile Suit Gundam reasonable? Is it reasonable for every Saint Seiya to have a haircut? Is it reasonable? In this world, because of Lazai's advanced preparation, the biologist Dr. Hansen, who had one night in Switzerland with Tony on New Year's Eve of the millennium, was abducted to the S.H. That is, therefore, the plot of Iron Man 3 did not actually play out like in the movie. But Air Force One was still hijacked once, and the subsequent development was basically similar to that in the movie. Tony still used an almost impossible air rescue to once again establish his position as the most popular superhero. However, after hearing the captain's question, Tony gave a negative answer. Captain, I'm afraid it's not possible. More than 30 seconds have passed. It's too late. Tony's words made everyone silent. They fought to the death here, just to save the Earth and the billions of lives on it. To trade the lives of more than 1,000 people for the lives of billions of people, it sounds like a profit, and a big profit. But life is never measured simply by quantity. Billions of lives are lives, and 1,000 lives are still lives. In history, there have been many cases of sacrificing many people to save one person. And all of this could have been avoided. What the hell did we do? A loud crash suddenly came from the other side of Captain America's microphone. At this time, the enemies around Captain America had just been cleared, and Captain America, who was free, had a short time to regret the accidental killing just now. For him, those who could not be saved were considered accidental killings. 4/8, 294. Not worth mentioning. Captain, what happened over there? A polite voice sounded, and it is said that the tone gives people a feeling of British gentleman. Vision. The captain was a little sad. I'm sorry, I know now is not the time to be sad, but we should have been able to avoid this, but we didn't do it. Captain, I think I don't understand what you are talking about. Vision's voice still did not fluctuate. If you are talking about what Dr. Banner said just now, I think it's unnecessary. Although I don't know why this happened. Those people did not fall down. Just when the flying island shook and the edge collapsed, a light curtain of unknown composition suddenly appeared outside the edge. That 1024. Oh, now there are more than that. Those people did not fall down, but fell on that layer of light curtain. Light curtain? When the word came out of Vision's mouth, everyone was obviously stunned for a moment, and then seemed to suddenly remember something. Is the light curtain you were talking about golden? Black Widow asked this question on behalf of everyone, and got a positive answer from Vision. Yes, it's golden, and that layer of light curtain has a unique identification system. All the humans who fell were easily caught, but all the gravel that fell was directly shattered into pieces. I don't know what the principle of this automatic identification and instant shattering ability is. Is this a new technology you invented, Mr. Stark? Why is there no record in my database? This technology, I'm afraid it's not Stark's. Before Tony could speak, the captain learned to answer. Tony smiled evilly. This is just a simple application of gamma rays. It's not worth mentioning. Not worth mentioning. Didn't you say that it's not your technology? Bang. Amid the huge sound of iron hammering, Thor's voice that made Star-Lord envious and autistic slowly sounded. "That's why I said it's not worth mentioning. Do you want me to join the ranks of praising that guy? Do you know that I am the last person in the world to praise him?" Tony's voice was pointed. Over there, Lazian, who had landed beside the ice coffin that froze Ultron and was staring into the eyes of Ultron, finally spoke. "After all, I am also a major shareholder of Stark Industries. Can you please give me the minimum respect? What's more, I am also a special consultant to SHIELD, and there are even rumors that after Hill goes home for maternity leave, the command of SHIELD will be in my hands. If all these identities combined are not enough to change your mind, then I can't say anything more. Anyway, I have only protected the Earth a few times and helped advance the Earth's technological tree by hundreds or thousands of years. These merits are really not worth mentioning. I think Mr. Stark simply doesn't like you. It has nothing to do with the size of your achievements." Commander Hill joined the channel. "But there is one thing that I am quite confused about. Where is the rumor that I will go home for maternity leave?" "Oh, isn't it? Maternity leave is something that you can take even if you don't have the conditions." Lazia smiled. "And if you need it, I can help." "Sir, to be honest, I think this topic is a bit over the top," Vision said slowly, his voice still without fluctuations. Hearing Vision's words, Lazia's mouth moved, but he did not refute. It's not that he is unwilling to argue with a machine life that has just gained independent consciousness, but he feels that what Vision said makes sense. After all, the current environment is stable, and Lazia really doesn't want to experience the small black room again. Never. Moreover, at this point, both the Avengers and readers have understood that he is not the kind of self-entertaining hero who takes human life lightly. Even when fighting the enemy to the death, he will consider the safety of the people. Shutting his mouth, Lazia's attention returned to Ultron. In the ice coffin, all of Ultron's actions were frozen, and even the power source in the mechanical body was silent. But Ultron inside did not become a piece of mindless scrap metal. On the contrary, his consciousness still exists and is very active. It can even be said that if he was not more interested in his current body or something in his body, he might have escaped from this body long ago. It was true that Vision used his ability to drive Ultron out of the network, but it did not mean that Ultron's consciousness could only be trapped in this body. You know, there are still hundreds of Iron Warriors on this flying island, causing trouble everywhere. These Iron Warriors are not only under the command of Ultron, but also can directly become the carrier of Ultron's consciousness anytime and anywhere when Ultron needs them. In other words, Vision's blockade cut off Ultron's external network. Ultron and these mechanical warriors are equivalent to a local area network. Even if there is no external network, the local area network can also open a room to fight and share resource seeds, and the speed is much faster than Thunder and E-Mule. I don't know how many people still know about E-Mule, the artifact of the internet cafe back then. Have you raised your hand if you downloaded all night and it crashed without a USB flash drive? Do you think you can trap me like this? An Iron Warrior flew to Lazia and stopped. He did not attack, but suddenly spoke, and his voice was exactly the same as Ultron's. Lazia did not explode it without even looking at it like before, but stood with his arms folded, one hand touching his chin. Maybe you are right, I really can't trap you like this. Lazia nodded, but if I'm not mistaken, you can't open this ice coffin yourself. Humphrey. Ultron snorted heavily. So what? Do you think I care about such a body? Without this one, I can just make a new one. If it's that easy to make a new one, maybe you can get it through some channels as far as vibranium is concerned. After all, the defense in Wakanda is just like that. Lazia also snorted. He really looked down on the performance of those black uncles, or the black uncles imagined by the Americans. But Brother Leopard is gone, so it's better not to say anything. But, the reused in this body of yours is not something you can get casually. It's just true. As soon as Ultron said this, he shut up instantly. 5/8. 295. Veronica. What is Ru? It has been explained before, as a mysterious metal unique to Asgard. Even Asgardians cannot use it without restrictions. Only a few weapons are made of Ru. For example, the Eternal Spear, Thor's Hammer, and the Stormbreaker. Thor's exclusive ultimate weapon that will be made by the Dwarf King himself in the future. As mentioned before, Tony went to Asgard to help with the restoration and reconstruction. He worked like a beast for a long time and only got a little bit of Rif from Odin's treasure house. Tony is like this, so where will Ultron get Rif from? Could it be that there are some lost artifacts of Asgard on Earth that he has discovered? Although this is theoretically possible, just looking at Ultron's subtle look of wanting to say something but stopping, you know that it is definitely not that simple. In fact, if you open your mind, you will find that it is not impossible for Ultron to get through, as long as someone is willing to help him. The premise is that this person must be a native of Asgard, and have a certain status and authority, can freely enter and exit Odin's treasure house, and can successfully smuggle things to Earth without passing through the Rainbow Bridge. After combining the above information, the identity of the only suitable person is actually ready to be revealed. That's right, this person is Loki. Only this troublemaker would do such a thankless thing. And his behavioral logic? Haha, what kind of behavioral logic does this person need? Don't pretend, Lazia snorted lightly, and at the same time looked up at the mechanical warrior hovering in the air. Although it feels incredible, after excluding all impossibilities, the remaining one, no matter how absurd it is the truth of the matter. Call Loki out. Ultron didn't speak, but on a big tree next to him, a light and shadow suddenly flashed, and a green figure with two curved horns on his head appeared on the branch. Hi, everyone, long time no see. With the appearance of this figure, the surrounding Iron Warriors also began to gather at the location of the ice coffin, and some of the Avengers also followed behind and came here. After the short-legged Captain America arrived, Lazia was surprised to find that the people who came were actually the first generation of Avengers. Don't mention long time no see, my ears are almost calloused from hearing you. Seeing Lazia raise his hand to greet her, Black Widow, who walked to his side, pouted and rolled her eyes at him. However, Lazia ignored what she said and went straight up to hug Black Widow in her arms. Nat, it's great to see you again. This sudden initiative made Black Widow feel a little at a loss. When did our relationship become so public and clear? If the time and place were not wrong, I really want to give you a French shampoo. Ahem. Tony suddenly coughed in the channel. What do you think? If he hugs me later, should I throw out my left fist first, or my right fist? Banner looked at the reactor on Tony's chest and thought seriously. I think you should throw out the middle fist. Tony's helmet opened, revealing his handsome old face, which gave Banner a look of disgust. Don't think that just because you changed the order of the words. I don't know you are driving. Don't you have an idea of the current environment? What does that have to do with me? Banner shrugged. I have even been deprived of the right to cuckold myself. Think about it yourself. How many times have I slacked off? Sometimes. I really think, why not just retire? Anyway, I have pufferfish toxin. It's not a big problem for Betty and I to become professors at a university and live an ordinary life. After listening to the conversation between the two, Lazia suddenly turned around and looked at Tony. Old Tony, what's the matter? Didn't you tell Bruce about Veronica? Because there was no plot in which Tony bought a building in 5 seconds and blew it up. The Veronica that he secretly built without telling Banner, that is, the Hulk-smashing armor carried by the orbital satellite in space, was never officially released. In the original plot, the nesting doll armor stored by Veronica was not the legendary Hulk-smashing armor. In the plot, it was a giant mech specially built by Tony and Banner to make up for the weakness of the Iron Man suit's output power being limited by its body size. The principle is naturally based on the principle that Hulk's strength increases sharply after his transformation due to his increased weight. On the basis of the Iron Man suit, the body size is enlarged, the structure of each part of the mecha is also thicker and stronger, and the arc reactor carried is more powerful. In this way, not only can the instantaneous output power of the reactor increase significantly, but the output power that the mecha can withstand will also increase sharply. There will be no situation where the output upper limit is limited due to the limited bearing capacity of the mecha. In this world, this set of armor was conceived and created by Lazia and Tony, without Banner's participation. Banner was not told from the beginning, And it was also to give him a surprise, because the original intention of the design of this set of armor is different from the original plot. It is no longer made to strengthen Tony's iron suit. This set of armor was designed to compensate Banner from the beginning, before Banner and Hulk reached a reconciliation. Because of Zodiac's activeness, Banner played soy sauce again and again, and gradually evolved into a dispensable soy sauce role in the entire team. In addition to making a few jokes when making up the word count, there is no opportunity to perform. If this continues, Banner will really go directly to the university with Betty to be a professor, as he said. At least, there, he can live more like a man and gain more dignity. After all, no team needs a middle-aged uncle as a pure soy sauce, and it is shabby to be a group pet. Therefore, in order to compensate Banner and for the friendship between the first generation of Avengers, this Veronica came into being. Tony was suddenly called Old Tony, and he didn't react for a while. After a moment of stunned, he looked at Banner in confusion. "Is he calling me?" Banner shook his head. "Maybe he's calling Thor. I'm not too sure." Thor was suddenly called by his name, and he was stunned and had difficulty shifting his attention from Loki, but his eyes did not move. "Who called me?" "No one." Zodiac rolled his eyes. "You middle-aged people really talk a lot of bullshit. It's you. Show up." Veronica, with Zodiac's shout, in the outer space of the Earth, an orbiting satellite that was doing geosynchronous operation above everyone suddenly turned on the control and threw a huge metal device towards the Earth. Because he participated in the conception and creation of Veronica, and as a shareholder of Stark Industries, Zodiac also has the control over Veronica. 6/8 296 I'm okay again. As Zodiac shouted to the sky, everyone looked up at the sky, including Loki, who was ignored by everyone after saying an opening speech, and Black Widow, who had not been released yet. Ahem. Black Widow spoke softly while everyone looked up. "Shouldn't you let me go without leaving any trace? At least don't let me be so conspicuous." "It's mainly because I can't bear to let you go. I'm sorry." Zodiac smiled and took a step back, but her sight had penetrated the distant space and saw a ball of fire suddenly appearing in the sky. The metal box launched by Veronica entered the atmosphere from outer space and began to fall freely. In terms of performance, it was actually no different from a meteor. The huge speed caused the rapid compression and friction of the air, thus emitting dazzling flames. At this time, the flying island was still rising, and the speed of the metal box was fast. In just a moment, the huge red and gold armor color had appeared in everyone's field of vision. Looking at the falling container, everyone was a little confused. After all, the heavy steel suit had never appeared before, and everyone lacked a certain imagination. At this moment, Zodiac had already retreated to Banner's side and put a hand on Banner's shoulder. "Bruce." "Huh?" Banner's back muscles trembled, and he almost couldn't help but transform. "Go." Zodiac didn't say anything more. He exerted force on his hands and lifted Banner up with telekinesis, then threw him out. "Ah!" Banner shouted, and the whole person flew hundreds of meters in an instant, and the golden red container began to slow down above him. Then, the golden red container began to deform and disintegrate, followed by a burst of ding dang dang dong dang dang dang. "This is infringement. You used my costume sound effects privately." "Shameless." When Zodiac pouted and complained, a huge red and black armor had already landed on the ground. "Ha ha 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 ha." The mask of the mecha suddenly opened, revealing Banner's laughing face. "I feel like I'm good again. I can fight them for 300 rounds without Hulk's help." This laughter is really annoying. Banner landed in the huge armor numbered Mark 44, right next to Loki. Loki was originally a little dissatisfied because others ignored his handsome appearance, so he complained directly. The next moment, Loki's mind suddenly recalled a bad memory. However, before he could do anything, the Mark 44 over there directly covered the visor, and at the same time, a red and golden big hand reached out and grabbed Loki's ankle. "Fuck." Loki was caught off guard and subconsciously spit out a universal swear word, and then he was dragged out. Bang bang bang, left left left, bang bang bang, right right right, bang bang bang. After the picture was mirrored, It happened 3 more times. The huge power output of Mark 44 instantly helped Loki review the horror of being dominated by the Hulk's huge power. Next to Ultron's ice coffin, the white-blue ice layer was smashed into circles of spider webs, which continued to radiate in all directions. In the pit, Loki let out a long helpless groan as his soul was about to leave his body. Swish! Mark 44's visor opened again, and Banner's face was slightly disdainful. After so many years, this god has not improved at all? Turning to look at Thor, Banner shrugged innocently. If I break him, you won't cause trouble for me, will you? Thor's face was calm for a while, and he didn't change much when he saw Loki being smashed, but he shrugged when he heard Banner talking. Foreigners seem to like shrugging. Don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble, because Asgardians are not so easy to be played with, not to mention that Loki is a god. But, Banner pointed at Loki, who was lying on the ground, look at him, he seems to be different from what you said. This doesn't seem to be quite the same as what you said. Loki's voice sounded again, but this time it was not on the ground, but behind Banner, behind himself, not behind Mark 44. What? Banner was shocked and hurriedly tried to cover his visor, but it was too late. A dagger gently rested on his throat. How about it? This feeling of being played with by others, isn't it bad? While Loki was talking, the figure on the ground who was still chanting had slowly disappeared like a shadow. Feeling the temperature on the dagger, Banner reluctantly released his control of Mark 44. Am I really not suitable for fighting? Even with the Iron Man suit, I am still like this. After saying that, he closed his eyes, looking like he was ready to die. Everyone, can we discuss our current situation now? Loki sat down directly on Mark 44's shoulder and looked down at everyone. Thor took a step forward and said first, how did you get out, my brother? He. Loki smiled crookedly, with a crooked-mouthed war god's demeanor. My brother, how do you think I got out? When you were free and easy outside, saving the world everywhere, did you ever consider that there was a younger brother in the dark dungeon? Of course I remember, but, Thor looked at Loki and his mouth trembled. But don't forget who showed the way to the sacrificer, do you know? Our mother was almost killed by you, Thor asked loudly. After the Asgard experienced the invasion of the Dark Elves, Thor was too busy and angry with Loki, so he never went to the dungeon to see him. Speaking of which, even he himself did not expect that the two brothers would meet again on Earth, and in such a scene. Also, how did you get out? Did you get into trouble again? Facing Thor's questioning, Loki still had a smile on his face. We have discussed many times about the fact that it was your mother, not mine. I don't want to tell you those useless nonsense again, but you, the new king of Asgard, are you being too negligent in your duties? Loki played with the dagger in his hand, and grinned to one side again. You don't have to figure out how I got out now. You can take my arrival as a warning. The Earth is not as peaceful as it seems on the surface, and the same is true for Asgard. Father. Oh, your father Odin. Loki snorted and laughed. Although Odin passed the throne to you, there are some things he didn't seem to tell you completely. For example, you actually have a sister, and she. Loki pointed to the hammer in Thor's hand. She is the first owner of this hammer. 7/8. 297. Hildis. The news brought by Loki made Thor a little confused, and then he was deeply suspicious. What are you talking about, brother? Have you been locked up for too long? What's wrong with your brain? How can you say such a thing? We don't have any sister. Loki interrupted Thor directly and turned to Tony. Isn't there a computer over there? Just ask him to check it out. Or, can you ask this person? Seeing Loki's eyes fall on him, Vision nodded slightly. Vision. Oh, yes. It's this gentleman with a very unfamiliar face. He should be able to find some information quickly. You will know that there is actually a legend about our sister on Earth. The fact is that it is not the imagination and random fabrication of the Earthlings. That person is real. You are talking about. Tony's brows suddenly frowned. Could it be? As he said that, Tony and Lazia looked at each other and finally spit out a name. Hilda. Nani? Thor and Loki both had black question mark faces, and the picture was usually accompanied by the expression of let him be strong. I am Nick Young. Speaking of which, stealing the ball from your teammate to complete the lore, I just want to ask you if you are convinced. Seeing Tony and Loki looking confused, Tony couldn't bear it. Why, they really didn't know about this. I thought you had said it a long time ago. At least Thor should know it. That's right, they don't know, Black Widow also added, and at the same time looked at Lizzie and shook her head gently. Wait a minute, what Hilda? Thor stretched out his hand and waved the hammer. She is the first owner of this hammer? Why, I have never heard of this name. Although I dare not say that I have read the history of Asgard, I still know some major events and important people. What's more, this person is our sister. Maybe it was Odin's intention. Banner and Loki's hand couldn't help but say something. And to be precise, Hilda should not only be the first owner of Thor's hammer, she even once wielded the Spear of Eternity. This time, even Loki, who came with the truth and was ready to rub everyone's IQ on the ground, was confused. Although your statement sounds like a lie, I still can't help but want to ask, who the hell is this Hilda? Ahem. Captain America coughed, and everyone's eyes instantly gathered. Seeing this, Captain America was a little embarrassed. Hey Muzuru-e, I actually just want to remind you, don't forget that the real powerful one is actually Lifia, Hilda's sister. Tony suddenly realized, yes, how could I forget Lifia? If only Tony mentioned Hilda's name, Thor and Loki would definitely think he was talking nonsense, and I don't know what bad things he was thinking. But with Black Widow and Banner, even the famous honest captain agreed with their statement, then this matter may not be that simple. Only Lizzie didn't speak from beginning to end, and when Tony mentioned the name Hilda, he didn't know where he took out a silver mask and put it on his face. If you can't see me smile, it doesn't count as my loss. Hilda, Lifia. Thinking of this pair of sisters, the elder sister had wielded the Spear of Eternity, and the younger sister was even more powerful than the elder sister. The fighting power of the two must be off the charts. If these two people were in the same camp as Hela, the result would be disastrous. Hela alone had already made Odin a little anxious, and he even thought that his death might be the end of Asgard. If these three people really united, it would be impossible for the two brothers, Thor and Thor, to handle it even if they died of exhaustion. It seems that things may be a little troublesome. Loki looked at Thor and suddenly shook his head and said. Thor nodded. You are right, brother. Asgard may really be facing a major crisis. It seems that we have to hurry back to prepare. He weighed the hammer in his hand and continued. No matter who they are, I only know that Meow Meow is in my hand now. No one can take it away from me, and no one can hurt Asgard in front of me. After that, Thor swung the hammer out, and with a bang, the mechanical warrior possessed by Ultron hanging nearby was blasted into slag. Ultron was eating melons, and suddenly he lost another clone, and he was a little annoyed. What did I do? Although he was a little annoyed in his mind, Ultron did not show it directly, but directly prepared to change a mechanical warrior to possess. However, after its consciousness was transferred, it found that it seemed to have returned to the ice coffin. The ice coffin fixed Ultron's body, but it could not fix its consciousness. Through the blue and white ice layer, Ultron also saw the outside world clearly at this time. It turned out that at some point, the mechanical soldiers with red light in their eyes completely disappeared. Although there were still hundreds of mechanical soldiers floating in the sky at this time, these were not the ones it made. Moreover, the chests of these mechanical soldiers seemed to be sprayed with a red five-pointed star. At the front, a mechanical soldier with a body shape that was obviously different from the others and looked like a captain or leader suddenly saluted Lizzie. Hello, Chief, I am He Cheng Wang, the Special Operations Team of the Fire Phoenix Commando, reporting to you. Old He, it's you? Lizzie was also a little surprised. When he returned to China in the criticized chapter, the first driver and guide arranged by Zheng Zuan for him was Old He in front of him. However, in his impression, Old He was a baby-faced man of medium height, no taller than 175 centimeters, but the mecha in front of him that was saluting was nearly 2 meters tall. Judging from the size, it was impossible to fit Old He. It's me, long time no see. Old He followed Lizzie for more than 3 months, and the relationship between the two was pretty good. So after the formal salute, the relationship between the two was still relatively harmonious. After saying hello, Lizzie looked at the mecha in front of him with some curiosity. So, This is the Fire Phoenix mecha, the remote-controlled type. These mechas are actually improved models developed based on the remote-controlled mechas that Ivan Vanko made for Hammer Industries in the plot of Iron Man 2. The improved Fire Phoenix mecha, while retaining the remote control, has greatly optimized the kinetic energy and mobility of the mecha. Moreover, from the mode of controlling a troop by a computer, a separately controlled model has been separated. Just like the Fire Phoenix captain machine in front of him, it is remotely controlled by Lao He in a cockpit far away. This mode, while retaining the uniqueness and maneuverability of the captain machine, also greatly improves the protection of the pilot. 8/8. Chapter 288 Saturation Rescue. The current control distance of the Fire Phoenix mecha is still limited, only about 100 kilometers. Therefore, if you want the mecha to move freely outside, the location of the cockpit must not be too far away from the battlefield. As far as Lazia knows, the first batch of cockpits of the Fire Phoenix mecha were installed on the Ring headquarters, the air carrier of the Shinmal Bureau. Since Lao He and the Fire Phoenix Commando have arrived at the scene, it means that the Ring headquarters is also nearby. At this time, Lazia's communication channel suddenly received a communication request. Lazia, long time no see. Listening to Zheng Xian's voice coming from the headset, Lazia's face was a little dark. Brother Zheng, do you know that you stole my lines? Haha, Zheng Xian laughed. Let's not talk about that. We are now above Scovia and are approaching the flying island. You can arrange to help the residents evacuate. Are you there? Lazia's body slowly rose into the air and flew towards the flying island. There are more than 100,000 residents on the entire island now. Do you have enough transportation capacity? More than 100,000 people? After a moment's silence on the other end of the headset, Zheng Xian's sighing voice was heard. It seems that we are still a little over-prepared, but it's good this way. It won't be so crowded when sitting, and it can be more spacious. Lazia was stunned. Brother Zheng, you are not kidding. I said 100,000 people, not 10,000 people. I know. Brother Zheng smiled again. So, you haven't heard of Saturation Rescue? While talking, Lazia had already flown high into the sky and could overlook the entire flying island. Then he found that around the flying island, more than a dozen huge black figures were slowly appearing. Oh my god, more than a dozen circular headquarters. Are you working so efficiently? Didn't you say it was just under construction? Looking at the distance, Lazia couldn't help but ask questions. Unexpectedly, Zheng Xian laughed again and said, "This is called the speed of a great country. What has always limited our development is technology, not production capacity. Let's stop here. If we say more, it will be beyond the scope. Let's prepare for the connection." Lazia nodded and didn't say anything else. Instead, she told everyone in the Avengers channel that the S.H.I.E.L.D. had arrived to participate in the rescue. Captain America and others didn't say much, only Hill's tone was a little bad. It sounded like self-pity? Why are there so many? When Fury was here, S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't have so many space carriers, and they are all so big. It's not Hill's fault. The space carrier, which originally looked huge, was squeezed in the middle by more than a dozen Ring headquarters, just like a Hummer squeezed in a queue of Steyr heavy trucks. How domineering she was before, how humble she looks now. But fortunately, Hill just complained casually. As the commander of S.H.I.E.L.D., her professional quality is still beyond reproach. Soon, she began to arrange for the space carriers and personnel of S.H.I.E.L.D. to take action and began to help the entire island residents evacuate. The whole process began to proceed in an orderly manner. Although there were many people waiting for rescue, the residents of the island were relieved after seeing the powerful transportation capacity of the rescue team in the sky full of Fire Phoenix Commando mechas. More than a dozen motherships cooperated with hundreds of shuttle boats. It took less than half an hour to take all the residents away from the island. Afterwards, the Ring headquarters and the space carrier left together, and only Lazia and the Avengers were left on the island. Oh, there are two captives. Well, the two captives refer to Ultron and Banner, and Loki's dagger is still on Banner's neck. At this time, the island was still on the way up, and the oxygen concentration in the air began to become thin, but it had not yet reached the point where it was impossible to breathe. The ice coffin was opened by Lazia, revealing Ultron inside. Your plan has failed, the captain said to Ultron with a sullen face, and all the Avengers turned their eyes to Ultron, including Banner, who was held hostage by Loki, and Loki, who was holding Banner hostage. It seemed that from the beginning to the end, no one regarded Banner being held hostage by Loki as such a great event, including Loki himself. Maybe he put the dagger on Banner's neck just because it looked cooler and could satisfy his pitiful self-esteem at the bottom of the food chain. It was similar to Aku's spiritual victory method. Haha, failed. Ultron would laugh, and his laughter was very arrogant. Avengers, up to now, the flying island is still rising, isn't it? Do you really think that you will win? Yes, the flying island is still rising. Lazai had returned to the battlefield and said to Ultron, then may I ask, have you ever thought about why the island is still rising, while we have not shown any sign and let it rise? Because you have no way to stop it, Ultron said confidently. The power control system on the island has been locked by it. It believes that Tony and Vision have no way to open the system in a short time. As soon as Ultron finished speaking, the island's rising action suddenly changed, and then slowly stopped. The speed of the slap in the face was so fast that Ultron almost sprained his waist. What did you say just now? Tony asked with a raised eyebrow. Humphrey. So what if it stops? Ultron mocked again. At this height, even if you blow up this island, the debris that falls is enough to destroy a city. Even if it falls into the sea, it is useless. Such a weight is enough to trigger a regional tsunami, and damage is still inevitable. What's more, the entire island has been reinforced by me, and it is difficult for you to blow it up. It is more likely that it has fallen to the ground before you blow it up. You said this island is very solid? Lazai asked. Yes, Ultron said confidently, it's strong enough to withstand the destructive power of intercontinental missiles. Can't withstand nuclear bombs? Lazai said with some regret. In theory, it is, but if I have enough time, I can reinforce it to the point where it can withstand a large-yield nuclear bomb. After hearing what Ultron said, Lazai turned to look at Tony. Can you do all this? Reinforcement or something? Tony thought for a while, combined with the technology of Asgard and Xander. I guess it shouldn't be a problem to reinforce this flying island to the point where it can withstand hundreds of space-based laser weapons. Lazai nodded. So, in other words, there is no point in keeping this piece of iron? Basically, that's right, Tony agreed. After all, the things in its database are all the technology on Earth, and those things have long been eliminated by us. What? Ultron was a little confused. Chapter 8 ends, and the main text begins. Chapter 289 named Sanctuary. In that case, say goodbye to this world you hate. Lazai said this, but raised her hand, and the ice coffin appeared again, freezing Ultron inside. Ultron didn't have time to say goodbye to the world, and with a crackling sound, he and the ice coffin shattered into ice chips. With a crisp sound, the ice blue cube fell to the ground. Everyone looked down and found that it was the cosmic cube. You did a good job. Thor turned his head and glared at Loki, but Loki shrugged indifferently. Yes, you don't need to thank me, but I didn't expect that you would resolve this crisis so easily, even if that iron lump raised such a large flying island to such a height. From what you said just now, it seems that there is something else in your words. You don't want to put this thing in the air and make it into an artificial satellite, right? Haha. Loki finished laughing, but found that no one laughed, as if his joke just now had become true. Don't worry, this place won't be made into a satellite. After all, if it leaves the atmosphere, no living creature can survive on it. Banner turned his head slightly and began to explain science with a stern look on his face. To be precise, our idea is to build this place into a floating island that can float and move freely in the atmosphere. This will be a true enclave. Although its space is not too large, it is only the size of a city, with an area of only a few dozen square kilometers. But there are mountains, forests, green spaces and rivers, which can form a complete ecosystem. Here, we can not only do many experiments that are inconvenient to conduct on the ground, but also deploy a large number of teams to become a line of defense on the Earth against foreign invasions. Of course, these are just preliminary ideas. In the later stage, We will continue to strengthen it and even add a protective cover to the entire flying island to prevent the atmosphere and water inside from diffusing in a vacuum. By that time, this flying island can really be driven outside the atmosphere and become an artificial satellite inhabited by humans. Although Scovia's ascension was not designed in our plan, we did have such a plan a long time ago, and we even named the island. How about flying Atlantis? Looking at Banner's serious talk, Loki felt as if he was being mocked. Not at all. I think it should be called the Flying Hall of Valor. It would be best if you all become heroes here. Hall of Valor is the destination of the souls of the heroes of Asgard after their death in Norse mythology. The concept of heroes has long been promoted in the Big Cup War next door, and there is no need to explain it. Banner's expression was a little sad. Do you think this name is not good? This is my proposal, but it was not passed in the end. The one wearing a metal mask over there convinced us with force, so in the end this flying island should be named Sanctuary. The name of Sanctuary was indeed proposed by Laziah. Originally, he wanted to call this place Penglai. After all, when it comes to flying islands and fairy mountains, the first thing we think of is Penglai and Shushan. Now there are mountains on this flying island, but they are not high, so it is a bit far-fetched to call it Shushan. It is more appropriate to call it Penglai. But in this case, the problem comes again. Laziah's golden finger is a holy cloth, not a flying sword, which is seriously inconsistent with the style of painting. So in the end, the name Sanctuary was decided. With this name, it immediately matches the setting of the Saint Seiya. Now all we need to do is to get a goddess as a mascot, and then pull the young ladies and boys from Laiu and over, and this place will instantly become a real sanctuary. In this Marvel universe, it seems quite interesting to have a Saint Seiya heritage. Hearing the name Sanctuary, Loki inexplicably thought of God's domain, the Asgard gods' domain, where the Asgard gods live and rule. So, this is actually the gods' domain on Earth, and you mortals want to imitate the Asgard gods and enslave this world? Laziah glanced at Thor, who was silent next to him, speechlessly, thinking that the two brothers were indeed not biological, and the younger brother's divergent thinking ability was much stronger than that of his older brother. Why? Tony took over the conversation. Let's not talk about whether we want to become gods or not. Your thoughts are actually very problematic. Why is it that when you mention gods, the first thing you think of is slavery, not protection? Obviously, we exist to protect and lead this era. Okay, protect? Loki sneered. Hasn't the damage you have caused to the Earth been enough? You have the nerve to say the word protect. Clap, clap, clap. Laziah suddenly clapped his hands and interrupted Loki. Okay, everyone, we've talked enough, and my villain friend over there, we don't need to prove our existence to you, so naturally we don't need your affirmation, let alone new talking nonsense. Laziah stretched out his hand, and under the traction of telekinesis, the ice-blue cosmic cube instantly flew into his hand. I'll take the cosmic cube. Tell me your request. What do you need our help to do for Asgard? What? This time it was Thor's turn to be confused. Before, he was still anxious about what Loki said, and was ready to return to Asgard as soon as possible to be the savior. But when Laziah said that, he felt that he didn't understand again. Was I stunned just now? Or was it a short film? How did it get here? On the opposite side, Loki's expression suddenly changed, but it was only for a moment, and then he returned to his stubbornness. Request? Help? Are you kidding? Asgard needs help from you Earthlings. Do you see the big guy over there? Loki pointed at Thor. Before Banner transformed, Thor was undoubtedly the biggest among the crowd. He is the invincible god of war of Asgard. He has never lost a battle in more than 1,000 years since he inherited Thor's hammer. With him around, do you think Asgard needs help from outsiders? Is it because the enemy is a woman so powerful that even Odin, the father of the gods, is afraid of her? Is it because even Odin can't kill that woman and can only imprison her? Does he think that as long as Asgard exists, the power of that woman will not disappear, but will become stronger and stronger? Loki asked 3 soul-searching questions in a row, which directly made the scene fall into silence. Only Banner, who was held hostage by Loki, suddenly said, "Why do I feel that even if I cheat on myself, I can't handle this woman?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 290 Goodbye Gwen. After discussing the candidates for the expedition, the story of Scovia was basically over. A crazy operation triggered by Ultron, which wanted to reshape the entire worldview by destroying the world, ended smoothly with the cooperation of the SHIELD represented by Lazai and the Avengers. The Avengers evacuated from Scovia. When they came, they only had one Quinjet fighter, but when they left, they drove away a huge flying island with an area of 70 to 80 square kilometers. When the flying island flew under the clouds, the whole world was amazed by the grand scene that had not appeared in tens of thousands of years of human history. After much consideration, the sanctuary flying island was finally decided to hover over a large island of more than 36,000 square kilometers on the west coast of the Pacific Ocean. In this world, the blockade of the United States was broken a few years ago when the strait became an inland sea. Today's Eastern power has become a world-class superpower in all senses, including but not limited to comprehensive national strength and the existence of the SHIELD. In short, it is right to stop here. From all aspects, there is no problem. At the edge of the flying island, the Avengers stood together, overlooking the ground. Lazai stood with Captain America and Tony, because Tony was going to Asgard with Lazai. Some things needed to be explained to the captain in advance. This matter is over now. Captain America put the shield on the magnetic buckle on his back. Except for the face, everything else was basically the same as Westbrook, including the chest muscles. Well, I'm actually talking about the Ninja Turtles. Lazai nodded next to him. Well, it's been delayed for so long, and the gaps that need to be filled have basically been filled. Let's go back and rest, and then we will prepare to leave for Asgard. Tony also nodded in agreement. But I still want to go to Asgard with you guys. With the high popularity of the little witch Wanda, it seems a bit unreasonable not to go to Asgard. But Lazai did not agree. Perhaps time has changed his mentality. In his eyes, Wanda at this time is like a middle school girl who has not grown up yet but feels that she can do everything. And this middle school girl is like his daughter. Lazai actually didn't know how powerful the returning Hela was, because many things in this world were actually different from the plots of the movie world in his memory. Therefore, Lazai had a hunch that this battle might be a tough one. And even the most conservative estimate was that it would definitely be more than 10 times more difficult than Ultron's. You can't do it. Lazai denied it without even thinking about it. No old father would want to take his daughter to fight a tough battle that he was not sure of. Rejected, Wanda chose to seek comfort in the broad bosom of Black Widow, who was the most generous one among all the people present. After sending Wanda away, Loki came over again. At this time, Loki had already taken back the dagger in his hand, and Banner had also taken off the Mark 44 and returned to his ordinary clothes. Hey, Loki had been a little at odds with Lazai from the beginning, so naturally he didn't speak in a very polite tone. Lazai glanced back, then retracted her gaze and said coldly, "If you have anything to say, just say it." Although Loki sent the cosmic cube and was considered a half-employer, Lazai did not intend to indulge him based on his previous behavior of aiding the enemy. Not beating him up for being unable to take care of himself was considered a great respect for Thor. Seeing this, Loki opened his mouth to mock Lazai, but Thor reached out and pulled him back. "Zai, what do you mean by Hilda and Lifeia? What is their relationship with Hela? Why haven't I heard of them in Asgard?" Thor spoke, and Lazai still had to give face. "It's not an Earth legend. It should be considered as some kind of premonition of mine, just like the illusion you saw when you were controlled by Wanda before. It's my perception." After Lazai told Gwen the story of the magical remake of Saint Seiya's Nordic chapter and was overheard by Black Widow and publicized, he used this reason to prevaricate. Several members of the first generation of Avengers actually believed it. In the end, only Lazai knew that from the beginning to the end, Hilda and Lifeia were just stories from another world, just stories. But if he said that, Thor couldn't say anything else. After all, Thor's own hallucination was later confirmed by himself. It was indeed groundless, and there was a reason for everything, not just imagined out of thin air, including the cosmic gems, and the doomsday crisis of Asgard. However, thinking of his hallucination, two figures appeared in Thor's mind. Under the black cloak, one was wearing a green tights, and the other was wearing a silver armor. Before, Thor always thought that the owner of the armor was Lazian, because the style of the armor was very similar to the holy clothes on Lazian. But after listening to the first generation of Avengers' comments about Hilda and Lifia, Thor began to doubt his own thoughts. Could it be that the person wearing the silver armor was not Lazian, but Hilda or Lifia? Moreover, if these two people are as powerful as they say, will Lazian be able to take 3 or 4 Avengers to Asgard? What Thor didn't know was that Lazian was actually worried about this problem, although he had just rejected Wanda's suggestion. However, if we count the lineup for this expedition, Lazian, Thor, Tony, Banner, and Vision, the 5 most capable people, can just make up a 5-strong lineup. Although there is a problem of excessive gender homogeneity, it is sometimes quite interesting for 5 big men to go on a business trip together. At least the atmosphere will definitely not be awkward. After settling the sanctuary, letting Zheng Xian and the scientists of the S.H. that is, Bureau take charge of the initial repairs and renovations, and explaining the aftermath to the local government of Scovia, Lazian followed the Avengers back to the Stark Industrial Building in New York. After many years, he finally returned here, and as soon as possible, he went to see the first heroine of this work, Gwen Stacy, who was wearing a white coat and recording experiments in the laboratory. "You're back?" Seeing Lazian, Gwen showed a sweet smile on her face, as beautiful as ever. However, Lazian was so excited that she almost shed tears. "Gwen," Lazian went forward and hugged Gwen in her arms. The strength was so great that even with Gwen's physical fitness enhanced to double E after the transformation, she felt suffocated for a moment. "What's wrong? Are you in trouble?" "It doesn't matter. I will definitely stay by your side and get through it with you." Gwen reached out and gently patted Lazian's back, which instantly made his eyes wet. Chapter 291, Reunion. "You know you love me, I know you care, you shout whenever and I'll be there, you want my love, you want my heart, and we will never ever be apart." The song rang out in the night sky. On the top of the Stark Industrial Building, the dreamy ice castle still stood. Under the solidification of Lazia's small universe, even the hottest summer sun could not melt the ice castle. And because of the solidification of the small universe, the low temperature was only controlled in the walls and ground composed of ice layers. The space inside the castle can emit a little coldness in summer, but in winter, it can isolate the low temperature outside and make it warm like spring. This place has even become a landmark building in the city of Twisting Waste Guest, making Stark Building even more desirable. It's a pity that as the private exclusive of Lazian and Gwen, this place is not open to the public, including the Avengers. They can only come in at the invitation of the two. There are many guest rooms in the castle, which can meet the needs of more than a dozen couples to have parties and stay. In addition to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, which belongs to Lazian and Gwen, there are 2 rooms that have owners. They are the only 2 people who have fixed rooms here and can act as temporary owners when Lazian and Gwen are not here. There are 2 names written on the signs next to the 2 rooms, Peter and Bing Bing. That's right, one of the rooms was reserved by Lazian for the amazing Spider-Man Parker. The relationship between the 2 has long been more than just classmates. According to Gwen, both of them are men. Otherwise there would be no chance for her to intervene as a third party. After all, it is impossible for a Silver Strait Saint CE like Lazian to be gay. He hasn't even passed Gwen's what, let alone a man. It sounds dirty. As for the other room, it is naturally Bing Bing's. Speaking of which, there are also 2 Bing Bings in this world, but the Bing Bing here is not that Bing Bing, but that Bing Bing. La Bing, who loves to eat mooncakes, is not Wang Bing Bing, whose English name is Ada. Since La Bing gave herself the surname La, she has become Lazia's real sister. Lazian is a traditional man. According to the ancient tradition of the East, when 2 people become siblings of the opposite sex, They are the same as real siblings. They need to follow etiquette and respect each other. What's more, they still have the same surname, you know. There is a difference between the inheritance of the East and the West. Westerners pay attention to bloodline, while Easterners pay more attention to the inheritance of surnames. So Le Bing, this sister, is a real family member to Laziah. In his opinion, those perverts who aim to go to Germany for orthopedics are heretics. They should be glad that their father still has reason and did not move the position of the stick up a little bit, and gave them the opportunity to go to Germany. It is obviously a chaos that is despised by morality. With the invasion of Oriental culture and the rise of the second dimension, it has begun to be talked about by many people. This matter has been perverted from the beginning. What's wrong with not finding a partner? Today is Valentine's Day. There are so many colleagues who have been single since birth all over the world. They can only read novels and play games. But what did they say? We are the most worthy group of people in the world to be loved. Okay, we have made great contributions to low-carbon environmental protection. We are glorious and proud. Just proud. In the castle, when Laziah was away, Gwen had already completed the interior decoration, and everywhere was full of the little woman's imagination of love. In the spacious living room, Laziah held a wireless microphone and sang a cheerful song with a clear voice. The song was Justin Bieber's Baby, and the person listening to the song was naturally Gwen. Today, there were only two of them in the castle. Coincidentally, the day Laziah came back was Valentine's Day. Parker and Jessica went to John Bull Country and did not come back. Le Bing also chose to visit Grandma Joan because she knew the specialness of this day. Le Bing did not act as a light bulb for Laziah and Gwen, but went to Grandma Joan to Grandpa E. No matter what the two old people did, she followed them. Anyway, for the elderly, safety and health are the most important. In the spacious castle, since there are only Laziah and Gwen, they will not be polite. When the Saint CEO with amazing combat power meets the female Spider-Man with explosive flexibility, may I ask, what postures can't be achieved? Anyway, after breaking 5 or 6 walls and punching through several floors, the two finally stopped. Laziah used her little universe to restore the broken floors and walls while holding a microphone to sing, all of which were love songs that fit the occasion. She sang from English songs to Chinese songs, and then back to English songs. At the end, the wall broke twice again, and then she really stopped. This time it was Gwen who sang. I'll take a bite. You said you loved me. I'm still savoring the tenderness you gave me. I'll take a bite. This fragrant temptation. You have everything I like. After tasting, the two hugged each other, talking about love between lovers, and pouring out the similar sufferings of the past year and a half. As they talked, the topic turned to Laziah's upcoming trip to Asgard. Can't you take me with you this time? In fact, I'm also very powerful. You just saw it. Gwen said, a little unconvinced, and her tone seemed to be a little dissatisfied because Laziah always treated her as a weak little woman. But Laziah knew that she was not worried about this. She was more worried about Laziah's battle outside. Although Laziah knew this, she still couldn't take her with her. The reason was the same as Wanda's. This matter was indeed beyond the capabilities of these Earth heroes. After all, this is not a movie. We can't follow the screenwriter's artistic fantasy and cover up all the loopholes after giving everyone a visual enjoyment. Seeing Laziah shaking her head, Gwen pouted her lips in frustration, but then she was relieved. You are actually worried about the appearance of those Hilda and God warriors you mentioned, right? You don't take Thor or even Odin seriously, and Hela is nothing. You once said that the power of the God warriors is very strong. Any one of them has the strength of a gold saint, and you are only at the level of a silver saint now, so you are not sure about such a battle, right? Huh? Laziah was stunned. Why has everyone been talking about Hilda recently? Won't these people say that Hilda will really appear at that time? Chapter 292. Listening to Grandpa Lee telling the Saint Seiya story. Brother, the moment he saw Laziah, Le Bing jumped on the spot. Laziah was so scared that his prostate gland almost grew larger. You know, there was a distance of more than 20 meters between them. You jumped on the spot. What will happen if you fall to the ground? After all, you haven't grown up yet, and you don't have the body of Fat Bing to resist falling. If you fall to the ground, You will definitely fall more miserably than your sister Fat Bing. It's only because I, as a major shareholder of Stark Industries, can easily catch a few small targets. Otherwise I really can't stand you." However, just as Lazai was complaining and preparing to teleport to catch Le Bing, she saw a purple-black circle suddenly appear in front of her. At the same time, a purple-black circle of the same style appeared in front of Lazai. "What is this?" Before Lazai could finish his words, Le Bing had already entered the circle in front of him, and then came out of the circle in front of him. Bang! A solid hug. Lazai was stunned. "Just now, what happened?" "Brother, where have you been recently? Why haven't I seen you for a long time?" "I'm back now." The circle disappeared. Lazai hugged Le Bing and explained with a wry smile, then took a few steps forward and greeted Grandma Kyangan and Old Lee, who were sitting on the sofa. "Grandma Kyangan, Grandpa Lee, I'm back." "Zion, you're finally back. Grandma thought you had forgotten me." Grandma Kyangan took Lazai's hand and said with a little excitement, "At her age, although she has seen too many joys and sorrows, her feelings for Lazai are different." "How could it be, Grandma? I'm back now." "It's good that you're back. Don't cry and make the children laugh." Old Lee next to him persuaded with a smile, then turned his head and looked at Lazai with a subtle expression. "Kid, how is it? Doesn't it feel good to be in the small dark room?" Lazai also looked at Old Lee and asked in surprise, "Grandpa Lee, you even know this?" Old Lee's smile did not diminish. "What do you think?" "There is nothing in this world that I don't know." Lazai thought for a while, then, "Have you heard of the name Hilda?" Old Lee raised his hand. "It's just a name. There are many people with this name in the world. You don't think that you are the only one in the world called Lazai?" "Hilda?" Le Bing in Lazai's arms suddenly turned around and shouted, I know. Hilda is the leader of the Nordic god warriors and the enemy of the Saint Seiya. The god warriors under her command are all as strong as the gold saints. The silver saints like my brother, they each. One by one, as Le Bing was talking, he couldn't continue. He felt like he was slapping Lazai in the face. Slapping. Lazai waved his hand indifferently. Yes, just like Le Bing said, Hilda was originally the agent of Odin, the god king of the Norse gods. He led 7 gods named after the Big Dipper and was quite powerful. But, they were later defeated by 5 bronze saints. Old Lee frowned in confusion. You said that all the gods have the strength of gold saints? That's right. Gold saints are stronger than silver saints, and silver saints are stronger than bronze saints. So bronze saints are at the bottom of the sequence of saints? Yes. That's strange. Since there is such a huge gap between the strength of gods and bronze saints, why would 7 gods be defeated by 5 bronze saints? This doesn't make sense at all, does it? Old Lee waved his hand. And what you said about Odin's agent on Earth is even more ridiculous. In recent years, we have all seen Thor, the god of thunder. This god who used to be high above and only existed in mythology is just an alien with slightly more powerful abilities. Let's not talk about others. You are no worse than Thor, right? Lazai nodded. He did not deny this, nor did he need to deny it. If Thor is like this, how powerful can the already old Odin be? Can his own power reach the level of a gold saint? In this case, it is even more impossible for his agents and subordinates to reach the level of a gold saint. So, your story is not true from the very beginning, Old Lee said calmly, looking at Lazai with a smile on his face. That expression seemed to say, hurry up and praise me. Lazai nodded again. Grandpa Lee, what you said is not unreasonable. So, if I were to tell this story, I should tell it this way. Old Lee supported his brown eyes, took a sip of coffee, and then spoke again slowly. This Hilda, from the very beginning, was not Odin's agent on Earth, but came from another dimension of time and space. Well, we can temporarily name it the Saint Dimension. Of course, the name is not important. It is enough to know that it is an independent dimensional space similar to the Dark Dimension, and in this space, there are also dimensional masters like Dormammu. Looking at Lazai, Old Lee said, there may be more than one such master, like Athena, Poseidon, and Hades you mentioned before. They are all masters of this dimension, and in the world war in this dimension, these masters fought each other before, and finally both were defeated, and the originally inconspicuous Odin became the final winner of that dimension. Afterwards, as the absolute master of the dimension, Saint Odin accidentally discovered the existence of our world's dimension, so he sent his agent, Hilda, to lead the gods who followed him to dominate that world, and began to launch a dimensional invasion of our world. In this way, the setting of Hilda as an agent and a powerful boss can stand, don't you think? In just a few minutes, Old Lee had woven Hilda, who had nothing to do with the Marvel Universe, into the timeline of this world, and it sounded like there were no obvious loopholes. At least in Lazia's opinion, if things really happened according to Old Lee's setting in the end, he would not feel abrupt at all. However, a story is a story after all, even if it was told by Old Lee. Lazia just listened to it as a story. Le Bing, who was still hanging on him, and several children from the orphanage beside him listened attentively, and even begged Old Lee to tell it in more detail. Oh, not all children are like this. A black-haired Asian girl next to him frowned and said childish. Lazia laughed when she saw her. Hide, are you still here? I have a name, please call me Daisy Johnson, Uncle. The girl frowned and said. Lazia laughed. Hello, Uncle Daisy Johnson. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.